Good afternoon. My name is Ashish Kumar and I take polity governance here in VISION IAS. Polity governance relates to which paper of GS, sir? GS paper 2. Now see, we are actually conducting these sessions regularly and I keep repeating most of the things always. So this time I plan not to say something on my side. I want you people to raise your doubts if we have something that will spontaneously come out, as a lecture. I'll invite you to bring out your doubts. For what you came here, you must be having some curiosity in your mind. You must be having some questions in your mind. Or you came here just to listen. Whatever you want to ask, you can put up the questions from your side, then I'll answer. Then I'll, give something from my own side. Anything, sir, you want to ask? Hanji.
Sources.
Right. Then? Amount of time, again?
We need to invest in this subject, polity and governance.
Any other thing?
Current affairs.
How to revise?
How to?
Revise and how many number of times?
We're selecting the optional subject.
Optional रहने दो. Let's focus on polity and governance.
Sir, how to approach it as a beginner?
Okay. Sir.
How a child of class 11 can make a beginning?
Any other question?
Is it necessary to go through all the NCERT books?
हाँ जी, एक क्वेश्चन और लेते हैं. If you have any other genuine and very different question, you can raise. You're free. Or I start with this. See, I start with this. See. Polity reflects in pre as well as in mains. In pre, GS1, how many questions come?
10 to 20 to 12, 14, 15.
Total questions कितने हैं GS1 में? There are 100 questions, MCQs, multiple choice. Out of these 100, how many questions come from polity part? Approximately 12 to even 22%. The questions can range from 10% to 22%. That's the weightage of polity in pre. Okay. Now mains, GS paper 2, the weightage is 250 marks. 250 number का paper होता है, 250 marks. Out of this 250 marks paper, you can divide the whole paper. I am giving you some information which is not covered in this question, okay? Out of these 250 marks, I can break the whole paper majorly in 4 subheadings. What we call as the traditional polity part. Traditional polity part means, for example, question can come on governor, the role of governor, or has the office of governor been politicized, office of president, money bill, emergency. These are the traditional area of polity. Question can come here. For example, this time, question came on J&K. Special provisions on Jammu Kashmir which are temporary in nature. Next time question can come on Uniform Civil Code. Okay, question came from preamble. What are the values mentioned in the preamble? So these are the questions which we call as traditional polity part. Okay, hardcore polity part. What is the weightage of this polity part? Around 100 marks, around, roughly. Now, apart from polity, the other major heading is what we call as governance. Governance means the part which is not that traditionally related to regular polity. It's something which is kind of seen as a peripheral area. Like, let's say, role of civil services. Civil services in India, what is their role? How civil services has strengthened democracy? Civil society, what is civil society? Citizen charter, e-governance, role of NGOs. Zakir Naik ki wajah se NGOs become more important. Okay, roles of NGOs, how should we tame NGOs so that they serve the larger interests of society and they do not go against them. So these portions we cover as governance, social audit, citizen charter. What is the approximate weightage of governance part? Anybody? Around 60 to 65 marks. Okay. Third major area of GS paper 2. Third major area is international relations. Question come around 50 marks. They can ask you about UN or they can ask you a question on ISIS, though I don't take IR, but still I can comment a little bit on that, right? Apart from IR, what is the fourth area of GS paper 2?
Social justice.
It is about welfare schemes or social justice aspect of the polity of Indian system. For example, they can give you a particular scheme or a prospective bill or a law and they can ask you how this law is better than the previous similar law. How is Swachh Bharat Abhiyan better than Nirmal Bharat Abhiyan? Okay, now these kind of schemes, they will not ask you to give the nitty-gritty of the scheme. They will ask you to make a comparison. For that you need to be aware of the latest scheme as well as of the previous similar scheme. Please remember this point, what I said just now. When they ask, and what is the weightage of this scheme part? Questions come around 35 marks. They will not ask you the detail of a particular scheme. They might ask you for a comparison. Okay. Anyways, you understood the weightage? Now let's come to source. Source for pre or mains you want to ask? सवाल आपने किया था ना? Pre or mains? दोनों same है. It doesn't make a difference. Let me tell you. Do not have this concept that prelims and mains preparation, they are different from each other. Let me tell you. Because this is not SSC exam, this is UPSC exam. Even in prelims, when they put you to this MCQ questions, they are not checking the knowledge of facts which you carry with you. For example, they don't want to check who was the first speaker of Lok Sabha in India, who was the first Attorney General, who was the first Law Commissioner. Though they will give you this question also. मजे की बात तो ये है that they will give you these kind of actual questions also, but that is rarity. Possibly one question out of 20 can come like this. Mostly they want to check you on your concepts. Now, for this concept building, you need to go on the detailed study of the topic. For example, let's say preamble. Now, preamble clearly declares that India is a sovereign country. Now, but if I start explaining the sovereign concept, sovereign का मतलब क्या था? Tell me, what is the meaning of sovereign? When I say India is sovereign, what does it mean? Sovereign means there is nobody over India to guide India, and India is completely free to take its own decision. But do you think actually India is free to take all the decisions? No. In today's globalized world, leave aside India, even America is not free to do whatever it wants. Now, if America launches attack on Syria, will it be completely free to do this? It will have some compulsion from the side of Russia. The growing relations with Russia will suffer. So you cannot say that any country is completely sovereign. You are part of WTO. You do not want to dilute the patent laws of this country, but WTO asks you to make the patent laws more tough, which will be harmful for your domestic industry. Karna padega, and we did this. We didn't want to sign a nuclear agreement with Japan the way Japan wanted, but we had to sign that the way Japan wanted. Means under compulsions, we also sometimes deviate from the hardcore line which we had taken earlier. Now, when we are deviating, can we say that India is sovereign? Means एक twist है ना? Yes, in theory we are sovereign. In practice, sometimes we have to dilute. Though that, let me tell you, in conclusion, we will write that in spite of these little bit compromises on our traditional stance, it does not mean that India is not sovereign. Because when we compromise our stance, it is again for the larger interest of the country. Because by compromising something, we get more in return. ठीक है ना? So here we explained that in truly globalized world, no country is completely free, including America or India. ये बात तो हमने लिख दी ना? Now this was for mains. Now when the same question comes in pre, that is India or any other country for that matter is completely sovereign, is India completely sovereign? If this question comes in pre, what will you write, sir?
According to situation.
Options yes or no, or cannot say. Yes. तो आंसर तो वहीं से निकल गया ना. Even in the conclusion of mains preparation, we will write this only, that though it appears that we have diluted our stance, it's not a dilution for the sake of dilution. We diluted so that we can get more returns. So still India is sovereign. So कहने का मतलब ये है, when you prepare for mains, from this only threads for pre will be taken up by the person who is setting the paper and by you who is appearing for the paper. Pre or mains अलग अलग नहीं है. Prepare mains properly, from that only pre question will come. But yes, on to that, like a topping, few more facts can be taken for pre. थोड़ा बहुत उसमें addition करना ही पड़ेगा. For example, we cannot ignore this fact that 10th schedule is regarding anti-defection law. But that will be covered in mains also. वो तो mains में वैसे भी cover होने वाला है कि नहीं है? So never have this attitude, I am preparing for mains now. 2 months before pre, I will prepare for pre. ऐसा नहीं है. साथ साथ चलाओ उसको. And in between, if you come across new facts, you can enter. But do not be very obsessive about facts. This is what I want to say. दोनों same है. Now what? Let me tell you the source. Source is, if you are coming for coaching, I am telling this, source will be I'll explain the concept, then I'll dictate you some notes in the class itself. For the reason when you write the notes, the things get committed to your memory also. You remember them. Okay? Class notes and few more factual things which may not have been covered in the class will be taken from Lakshmikant. For example, I did president. Now Lakshmikant has given the list of all the presidents in India. That might be helpful to you in examination somehow. Okay, so whatever topic I did in class, same day you go home, revise it, and the very same day open Lakshmikant. Lakshmikant, the beauty of the book is that he has covered many big topics in 2-3 pages, maximum 2-3 pages. Okay, so read the same thing from Lakshmikant, and if you come across an extra point, you mention that point in your notes. ठीक है ना? This is enough for pre. Mains again, the same class notes, and here again Lakshmikant. And one thing which is common to both is current affairs. For the reason, not that this thing will be asked in exam. If you are well acquainted with current affairs, you will be able to actually guess which areas are more important for the exam. For the reason, for example, the batch which I was taking before the mains, I told them categorically that preamble was extremely important, Kashmir was extremely important, Uniform Civil Code very important. Because they were in news. Questions came from Kashmir, question came from preamble. This time possibly from Uniform Civil Code. So whatever is in news is a very potential area of question setting. I am not saying that you leave other things and do this. Do everything. But before exam, ensure that you go through these things again, at least one day before the exam. Okay? For that you have to be thorough with current affairs. Sometimes the whole paper is actually based on current affairs. But yes, for that also you need to have some traditional knowledge of that area. Okay? Current affairs kahan se karenge? Current affairs, there should be one newspaper. Newspaper you can go for Hindu or Indian Express. But I personally feel nowadays Indian Express has become better than Hindu. For the kind of analysis it is giving. Hindu is mostly now covering news. Analysis kam aa raha hai uske andar. And Indian Express is also coming up with a page called as Explained, where they pick up a particular concept and give the detail of the concept. For example, this time budget got preponed by 1 month. Now why budget got preponed, they will explain that in that separate column. Now vote on account was in news for the reason budget got preponed. What is vote on account? They will explain that. Finance bill is in news. They will explain you what is finance bill, how it is different than financial bill. Now this specific focus is being given by particular newspaper which is Indian Express. Though if you are comfortable with Hindu, you can go on, no problem. Apart from this, cover at least one monthly magazine. एक monthly magazine आप जरूर पकड़ना. VISION IAS, they also provide monthly magazine. You can go through that also. One thing which is part of current affairs, but that will not much help you in pre. This is only for mains, which is what? Watch one debate daily on TV. In fact, after some time, you will become so much addicted to these things, you will not be able to live without them. Debates are to be gone through, because when you come across a debate, you get a holistic picture of a particular issue, not lopsided or one-sided picture, which is quite anti-government in most of the cases. So watch the debate. This will prepare you for mains as well as for interview. But pre-pass karna is not the aim, no. We have to ultimately clear the exam also. So go for this also. And about the reports, do not develop an obsession for various reports. These monthly magazines will cover the reports. Indian Express will cover the reports. So if you are reading these things properly, automatically reports will be covered. But yes, few reports will not be given in this paper, जैसे कि second ARC, Sarkariya Commission report, Panchi Commission report. These are landmark commissions or committees formed in various areas. You have to work a little bit on your own, and in class also I'll take up these things from my side. Okay? एक second. Debate, I feel, follow a debate which is not very slow or which is not very aggressive, fastly aggressive. For example, there used to be debate, now thankfully it's not there. Times now. After watching the debate, rather than getting anything, you got anxiety, nothing less. Lok Sabha TV, Rajya Sabha TV, good debate, but sometimes they go so slow that after an hour you feel that you have only heard one line and you were sleeping after that. इतने slow हो जाते हैं वो लोग. There is a balance maintained in mostly other channels like जैसे कि NDTV or CNN, IBN. I feel they carry the debate in a very nominal pace, and you get to come across various points. So that way it can be taken up. एक second. All India Radio News. देखो, All India Radio News, if you are having, for example दे रहा हूँ आपको. Let's say you are jogging. Now you cannot watch TV, you cannot read paper, पढ़ोगे तो टकराने का डर है. So better what you do, you take earphones and you plug them, and then if you are walking or you have some leisure time, then you can go through these things. Otherwise these things will also be the repetition of these things. देखो, बात ये है, you have limited time. Now you have, let's say, 13 or 14 months before the next pre. Now in this limited time, you cannot access thousands of sources which are available in the market. There are a number of sources. For the same topic, there will be 10 books, and 10 books will offer you 1 or 2 more points. But for those 1 or 2 more points, you cannot go through all the 10 books. Refer 1 or 2 sources. Read them 20 times rather than reading 20 books once. Because when you go in exam, it reflects on the paper also that you are able to recall. When you get acquainted, when you expose yourself to one thing again and again and again, it gets to your memory and you are able to pull it back when you have to use it in exam. But when you have gone the same thing from different sources, you will not be able to recall कि ये पढ़ा कहाँ था मैंने. You get confused. Okay. And one more thing, sources will be same. One thing more, NCERT की बात किसी ने की थी. I personally have this opinion. I do not feel NCERTs are of any use if you are going through these notes. Because NCERT will again talk the same thing which you have read in the school and school level itself. But yes, हाँ बोलो. हाँ, for polity governance only. I'm commenting only about polity governance, not about any other subject. Okay. Polity governance में the class notes and Lakshmikant will take care of everything, including the fundamentals. Don't worry about it. But then yes, if you are in school, as somebody asked me the question, what about the people who are in school class 11th? So if you are in school, then particularly NCERTs become useful. For school going students, NCERTs are very useful because already you are going through them. So you should have a kind of base. But बात सारी यही है कि even at the level of school, just go through them. And the same thing will be repeated in Lakshmikant and the class notes at a higher level, in fact, which is requirement of the exam. UPSC says that the syllabus is degree level syllabus, but that's not the case always. Sometimes they put so much of difficult questions also. And this is the source. Along with this, do one thing, which is even more important than the source, which is question practice. No matter how much you read, UPSC will put you in situations where there will be ambiguity in the statement of the question or ambiguity in the options. Either all the options will appear to be right or all options will appear to be wrong. Understood? Now, to choose the best option out of all the equally good option is an art which comes with practice. It's a kind of intuition which develops that again comes with practice. So practice the questions. When you come here, after every class, they provide you some questions also, daily basis. And also regularly they allow you to participate in some tests, all India level tests. Go through them. Previous year questions which are available in the market and the test series which they give you, VISION IAS की बात कर रहा हूँ. That is enough. But you start preparing जिस दिन आप पहले दिन पढ़ाई शुरू करो. The first day when you sit for preparation, let me tell you, you buy anything else, you buy previous year paper first. So that you get a feel, a pulse, what kind of questions are asked in exam. Everybody must have gone through simple history, biology, polity. Whether you are an engineer or doctor, you must have gone through all these things. So just have a kind of feel, what kind of questions come in exam. For that, today only you buy previous year papers and go through each and every question and answer, even if you don't understand anything. So that it primes you what kind of orientation you have to take for the preparation, right? Question practice is very important for pre as well as for mains. Now somebody was talking about answer writing. Answer writing is a big art in itself for UPSC, which cannot be explained in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, okay? There will be a special session on that also. So you can go through that. But write answers as much as possible. There is a tendency that students sometimes they feel what? They feel that writing answer is very laborious. You have to sit on the table, pick up the pen, write, and takes time. The other option is you lie down on the cot, read the book, syllabus over. Second option easy. But that is not enough. Unless you put your ideas on paper, nothing is meaningful. And many people are very much aware of many things, but they could not express that on paper. That's why they suffered. Paper पे लिख नहीं पाते उस बात को जो दिमाग में है. Or they are not able to precisely say what they want to say. Or they are not able to meet the demand of the question. In mains, he's asking something else, and you are writing something else. अभी इसी को ले लो. The question came on Kashmir, temporary and special status, Article 370. There were many people who did not read the paper question also, They just picked up one word, Article 370. They wrote everything about Article 370. He was not asking you about Article 370. He was asking you about the temporary aspect of Article 370. So first understand the demand of the question. Understanding the demand of the question and meeting the demand specifically is an art which again takes months. For the people who are from arts background, they are relatively more apt in these things. But for people from science background, they take little time. But they also perform well, no problem. Okay, so question practice, that's enough. इसके बाहर कुछ नहीं है. हाँ, governance is something on which some extra notes will be given to you. Again in class I'll give you some notes, and Vision IAS will also provide you some extra notes on governance. That is also again enough. And let me tell you, even if you are going through the paper regularly, this itself will prepare you for governance. And I'll also take some classes on governance, so that will be enough. Do not run after governance book of Lakshmikant. I feel it is not worth it. Polity is good, but governance, I feel it's not that good also for governance. Clear? Now, amount of time for polity. Let me tell you, there are 4 pillars: polity, history, geography, and economics. You have to dedicate more time to this. For example, science, you can devote relatively lesser time. I'm not saying do not work on it. Okay, but these are 4 pillars, and apart from that, current affairs again come to picture. So you have to decide your time according to your interest and according to your weakness. If you are weak in polity, if you are weak in economics, if you are weak in history, then dedicate more time to that. But it should not mean that you neglect the other areas. Maintain a healthy balance so that you distribute time on all. As I told you, it depends on the weightage of the question. If you have an area where the weightage can go up to 20%, you have to dedicate some time on it. Baki kitna barna hai, it depends from individual to individual. Now, source done, amount of time, how to make notes. Class notes I'll give you. Go home, read Lakshmikant, add extra points in those notes itself. After that, for mains, you can maintain a different register also. Register mein, what you have to do, in that register, dedicate 2 to 3 pages on every important topic which has come in the news. For example, dedicate 2-3 pages for president. Dedicate 5 pages for judiciary. Dedicate 1 page on finance bill. Now, judiciary is on daily basis coming in news. Roz aa raha hai judiciary ke bare mein. So you should have a compilation of what all judiciary did in the last 1 year, so that depending on the requirement of the question, you can pick up the threads. For example, if he's asking about judicial activism, you talk about this liquor ban on the highway and other actions. If he's asking about judiciary itself becoming corrupt, then you again pick up the same point from the register, because Justice Karnan, for example, Markan Kaju, they put allegation of corruption. So you can use this as a supporting argument in your answer. But for that, everything related to judiciary should be under one roof. On 3-4 pages, write everything in point form which is coming in news regarding judiciary. Write everything in 3-4 pages, everything which is coming on president. Write everything which is coming on governor. For example, the governor of Arunachal, why he was removed. Governor of Goa, did he do well by inviting BJP, or was he becoming partial? So write these analysis on 1 or 2 pages, so that when the question comes on exam, you should be able to pick up the precise point which meets the demand of the question. And this way, before your mains, you should be ready with about 35 to 40 topics on polity and governance. That's it. And that's not a very big deal also, let me tell you. 2 page banana कोई बहुत चीज नहीं है. Revision, how many times? N times. And N does not mean 2 times or 3 times, okay? It depends on your capacity, how much you can revise. And more you revise, more easy is to recall the information and use it. ये भी बात है. Revise as much as possible. Revise mostly from one source rather than changing source. Then what all to cover? Cover all, which is taken in class, and few extra topic which I will not be taking in class. For example, the facts of constitutional bodies, UPSC, SSC, CBI. This is given in Lakshmikant in half page or 1 page. So you better make a chart of comparison in which you write everything about these bodies, and I'll tell you how to do this in class. Okay, but then do not read specific topics from Lakshmikant again, which I'll take up in class. कौन-कौन से नहीं करने. The whole Lakshmikant is not to be read. And specifically in few areas, Lakshmikant has given unnecessary complication. For example, citizenship. Citizenship he has complicated beyond, what should I say? समझ रहे हो ना? And then fundamental rights also. Fundamental rights also, and he has put enough information which is not required also in many areas. So I'll tell you what to delete, what not to go. So don't bother about it much. Few things which are not clear in Lakshmikant. I'll myself tell you few things which are wrong in Lakshmikant and which are not clear in Lakshmikant. Delete them. For example, citizenship is one of the chapters. Newspaper, I told you, Indian Express, answer writing, do as much as possible. They will also help you in that. There is a separate officer who will look after for this answer writing thing, okay? What about the beginners? The same thing goes for beginner. And if you are having no time to specifically study for UPSC, do not worry. If you cannot study Lakshmikant, if you cannot study class notes, no problem. But start reading newspaper. Because newspaper will lay the foundation for you for the upcoming preparation. Prime yourself to the words which are coming in paper. For example, finance bill. Now you do not know what is finance bill right now, but they will explain you in the paper. And when you come to class and you hear these words, they will not appear to be alien words to you. You relate somehow to them. Otherwise, teaching and studying both becomes very boring. Okay, you can relate with that. So if you don't have any time for the coming 1 or 2 years, no problem. But at least strengthen your current affairs. The current affairs of this year will reflect in next year. And the next year will reflect in next year. So it's a chain. If you are very strong, problem is this, many people who take the exam for the first time, they are very weak in current affairs and they are also weak in GK. Few GK question also come. For example, in geography, he can ask you the kind of chain of mountain. Or in polity also, he can put you some factual question. For example, 10th schedule kya cheez hai? How many times the president has won the election by second round of voting? Who was the president who got elected unopposed? Now these are few factual things which are given in various books. For example, one of the book to cover this kind of factual thing is Lucent. I'm saying this, you go through them only when you are taking the exam in 2019 or after 2 years. Okay? Because that time you cannot study Lakshmikant and all these things, but then study current affairs and few factual things, GK. इसको हम बोलते हैं general knowledge. For example, what is the name of the Parliament of Nepal? These questions generally do not come, but they can also come. And GK takes time to build. You cannot be prepared overnight. That's also a fact. Okay, so if you're in school, work on current affairs and GK. That's it. Right? Enough. Hanji. Yes, UPSC has full liberty to deviate from the syllabus. And somehow they can justify that also. See, deviation will be only in max one question. For example, this last year question came on Chief Secretary. Who does the appointment of Chief Secretary? Now that was considered to be a very unconventional question. In governance we take this, but it will come in pre, it was not expected also. So they have full liberty to do this, but they will not, do a complete turnaround. But yes, they can do this thing that this year they may focus more on current affairs, next year they may focus on traditional. For 3 years they will keep focusing on traditional, polity. 4th year they will focus on geography. 5th year history, you never know. And do not go by the trend. They have this habit of dodging you if you go by trend. Right? Have a balanced preparation. Prepare everything and do not neglect anything grossly. That's also a fact. Clear?
For following the debates, suppose there are students who do not have TV at their PG. So can they follow it online?
You have mobile phones, no? YouTube. On YouTube and live channels also, you can go through the debates.
So what are the debates? Suppose there are n number of debates going on right now. So what are the debates that we have?
Yeah, this has to be taken up according to your own wisdom. For example, something which was covered in class. For example, AFSPA coming in class. Now, if a debate comes, should we repeal the provision like AFSPA? Should we remove the provisions like preventive detention law? Agar ye class mein hua hai, and it is coming in paper again and again and again, then this becomes important. And if this issue is multidimensional, that again it becomes important.
What about DD Basu?
DD Basu, Subhash Kashyap, if you have time, just for your satisfaction you can go through. But I feel notes already cover them. So no need to go through them if you do not feel like. But if you want to go through them, you're welcome. And do not have this obsession of mugging up PM Bakshi. Mugging up PM Bakshi will not help you much, because that will automatically again be covered in the same source. And few things which are not required, he has given the whole bare act. Uski zarurat nahi hai. In exam, it is more important to understand what to read and what not to read. What not to read will also save your time and frustration later on, and effort also. ठीक है ना? I think my slot is over and geography sir will come now, right? Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I believe I'm audible to all of you. Good. So the next half an hour or so we'll be talking about geography, right? And in that itself, I'll also see other areas which are of importance. So basically, see, because the session is how to prepare about civil services, and sir has already talked about some of the importance of, as I was saying, so newspaper and all that. So I won't get into those domains at all, I mean, because you understand what is the relevance of that part. But let's focus more so around the topic at hand, which is how do we prepare geography, one. So there are a few things which become important. The first is why, right? And the second is where from, and the third is how, right? So initially we'll keep our focus around these three terms, and we'll go on answering one by one all these three. First is why. So there's two why that we have to answer. Why geography, in civil services exam, and why we prepare from the perspective of the paper, or where all does it fit in, right? So I would assume that most of you have not read geography after your class 10th, just like I did not read it, right? By education, I'm an engineer, and I believe half the class here also would be. That has been the record of VISION IAS. This is what I'm seeing for almost last 9 years. That almost 8 years or so, not 9, 8 years, that half the people are engineers. So we have not read geography for all this while, and many of you come up and say, sir, I've not been in touch with geography, I've not been studying geography, and even in my school days, I could not understand much of geography, and I was thanking God that we don't have to do geography after class 10th, right? So, now that it has reappeared in my life for the second time, how should I go about it, right? So ek hota na dar, so there is a fear, and somehow you are able to overcome it thanks to class 10th. And so, see, first you have to understand here that what is the relevance of geography, right? And why at all this subject becomes important to us. Because unless, if you see in your life also, you tend to remember things which are important to you, right? If I ask you, what do you remember from 5 years back? You would have memories of a few things, yeah, 10 saal, 20 saal pehle, you might have, right? Even 15, 16 years back, you might have some memories, right? And why do you hold those memories in your mind? Have you ever thought, why do I hold that memory in my mind? Because they were somewhat important. Important always does not mean that you like it. It could also be that you disliked it so much that you still remember it, right? Jaisa maan lo ki you went to a public party and let us say, the father slapped you for the first time in front of 10 people, and you had an ego issue. 5 saal ka bachcha hai, ego issues, think of it. But hota hai yaar, right? Or something happened somewhere. So why do you hold to those things? Do you understand? We just hold on to things where we have interest of some sort or the other. And if you understand this, the second thing which becomes important is that if you really want to remember a few things, you have to develop interest in that somehow or the other. Right. Now, unless you are able to generate interest in geography, geography will remain a burden to you. For that matter, that applies to anything, right? So first you have to develop interest in geography, which I would discuss of, and probably that interest also flows from the fact that geography is really, really relevant, right, in your day-to-day life. And it's only because of the this link that we don't understand much of the world around us. Okay. So what is the relevance of geography? Let me say, right? What are the things that your geography books go on to talk about? The mountains, the rivers, right? The formation of the earth, the formation of the universe, isn't it? कहाँ से start होता है? The ones who have their NCRTs. How many of you have the NCRTs of geography with you? Class 11, 12th? Okay, wait, ठीक है, चलो, ठीक. I could sense from that कि मतलब, But anyways, so if you, as and when you get those NCRTs, you will see that the first chapter of the NCRT starts with the formation of the earth and the universe, and from there it gets into the earth system, and from there it gets into inside the earth and on the surface of the earth and outside, that is the atmosphere, and that's how the whole story goes on, right? So why is it relevant? Why do you need to know what the universe is made up of? Have you ever thought, why do we keep spending, NASA keeps spending so much, ISRO keeps spending so much? Why do they do so much? मतलब, the other question is, हमारे पास अपना, poor लोगों को खिलाने का पैसा नहीं है. So why should we spend so much money on these things? Have you ever thought? Is it irrelevant? Huh? What is the usefulness of understanding the universe? The usefulness is, the earth is also made up of the same things of which all the other things in the universe is made up of. And if you try to understand what they are made up of, किस चीज से बना हुआ है universe? What is the building block? Huh? What is the building block? Where do you find it? Your chemistry gives you a periodic table. And the periodic table, so at the atomic level, if you look at it, the building block of the universe is atomic level. What is the building block? Atoms, right? And where do you have a list of those atoms? Your periodic table. It gives you 118 elements. So if you see around, the whole of the universe is made up of these building blocks only, at least at the atomic level. Then you get into the subatomic and understand all that, right? So first to understand, how those atoms came into existence, right? So from there, if you try to understand, which is the first, some of you said hydrogen, right? Hydrogen is the first element in that periodic table, right? What is the mass and the number? 1, right? And hydrogen is the simplest atom to form, right? And because of that, what you find is that much of the universe is made up of hydrogen, the first element which was to be formed. And from there, you get the second element, which is helium. And which is the factory of helium? The stars. The stars are the factories which generate helium. How do they generate it? Thermonuclear reaction, right? Which happens at the core of the star, which turns hydrogen into helium, right? And from there, a star dies once it has turned it into helium, and then the new star is born, and the new process of thermonuclear reaction starts, which produces the next element, and that's how the different elements go on to get formed, and ultimately those elements will give you the surface, hard surface. Hydrogen cannot form a hard surface, right? Neither can helium, right? But yes, carbon and other things down the line can start forming hard surfaces, and from there comes your planets, right? And that's how the solar system also created its own planet, right? And once you understand that, then you try to understand, okay, so once you understand what the universe is made up of, gradually then you get into the earth. And then once you get into the earth, we go on to dig into the earth and figure out what the earth is made up of. What is the usefulness of understanding the interior of the earth? Anyways, we are never gonna go inside. Isn't it? Maybe for few, Yes. Much of now, if you see this room, right, there are so many things. For example, you find so many metals, right? If you just put hand in your pocket and you will figure out there is a mobile lying in it, which is either made up of metal or it is made up of plastic, right? Have you ever thought where that plastic or metal comes from? Where the lithium ion battery that we use comes from, right? What is the source? The source is the minerals, right? And where do you find those minerals from? Plastic ka bhi mineral source hai. Is the plastic also coming from minerals? It is. It comes from petroleum products, right? The raw material for that comes from the petroleum products, right? So if you look around, you will find much of the things, right? Either they come from the mines, right? Or they come from the surface. And if you really know that, okay, this is the character, and probably if I'm looking for lithium or if I'm looking for iron, you have to know where you should dig. I mean, you cannot go downstairs और एक पत्थर लेकर के and start digging and get petrol from there or है ना, हर जगह तो you don't find everything, right? So how do you come to know where will I find what? कैसे पता चलेगा? Based on the formations. You first have to understand how the underground surfaces are formed, right? Where we can expect what. And once you know, that's where you know targeted. It's something like you're understanding your house. Once you get into a house, what do? First you go around and see. कहाँ पे kitchen है, कहाँ पे bathroom है, पानी कहाँ से मिलेगा, isn't it? Where will I get the salt from? Where will I get whatever? So understanding the earth is also that kind of a process. Once you understand, then you are pretty organized, right? Then what do you do next? अब क्या करोगे? Once you get it, you know where to find it from, and then you start turning it into a resource. And that's what resources are. Resources, once you realize the usefulness of anything, that's when it becomes a resource. Until unless you know the usefulness, it's not a resource. For example, uranium was not a resource till we understood that it is a radioactive element and it could be used for energy. Petroleum was not a resource till we came up with the engine. Yes or no? And by coming to know that this is a resource, or when we came up with steam engine, coal also became a resource because we needed coal to produce steam. Burn and produce. Yes or no? And what is, if you go into the history of humanity, which is the first resource that we ever came to know of? Stone, right? And it was such a big resource that whole of the era of that period we call as Stone Age, right? And after that, which was the second resource?
Fire.
Not fire. Fire was previous, right? Yeah. Copper, and we call that as the Bronze Age or the Copper Age because bronze is made up of copper, and after that we came up with the Iron Age. Yes or no? This is how, so it wasn't that bronze wasn't there down inside or stones were not around. They have always been there, right? Since the formation of the earth, things are there, right? But you have to realize, and once you know the resources, what is the next thing? The next thing is that the beauty of the earth is that all the resources are not equally distributed. If they were equally distributed, suppose everything was available everywhere, what would have happened? There was no need to exchange. Right? You wouldn't have required it to come from some other source. Right? And what did this non-uniform distribution of resources lead to? Interdependence. Right? Or exchange. And it started at barter and gradually evolved into a whole full-blown economy. Right? And what is economy? Economy is nothing but efficient allocation of resources. Yes or no? So what is history? History is understanding how we have evolved in this process. Right? What is society? Society is set of human beings which have used the resources around themselves for the development and improvement of the human being together. Right? And if you see what is polity, what is polity? The set of rules that we formed to govern those people, right? And ensure that economy happens in a proper way, right? You need someone at the top. That is what the governments do, right? That's why we go on to sign an agreement with USA with respect to nuclear power, or with Japan, or with, ABC, Australia. Kitni countries ke saath hum karte hain na, resources? China. Right? So what do the governments do? Control. I hope you get it. But if you look at it, the base of it is formed by geography. Geography tells you what is where. Right? Let's take another step. What is the importance? Have you ever thought what is the importance of mountains that we go on to see in the world? Anyways, if you see, which are the biggest structures that you see around? सबसे बड़ा क्या structure है? बोलो यार. Mountains, उसके बाद plateaus, plains. Have you thought of the importance of mountains? Drainage, rivers, right? Mountains are water towers. They are water towers of our planet. Water towers, right? It's a tank. And what does the water tower do? It gives you water. How does it give you water? It makes the water flow as rivers. And what do those rivers give you? Rivers were the first site of human settlement. right? Either they were rivers, or they were lakes, or they were oceans. Wherever you see in the world, humans are always settled around these things. And these, if you see any settlement or any civilization, it has always come up around rivers, right? Whether it was the Indus, or it was Euphrates, or it was Tigris, or it was the Gangetic, right? Vedic civilization, where have they evolved? Around rivers. Why? Because that connects to the basic requirement of human being. What do human beings require? Food, water, shelter. Shelter you can come up on ground. If you have water, you can produce food. And when you start producing food, what does that become? Agriculture. The second primary activity. What was the first one? Mining, right? And second, agriculture. Yes or no? Right? So that is how your agriculture is around. And once you use the mine things for further production, that becomes your manufacturing, secondary sector, right? And all the services that you create around these things gives you your service sector, or what you call as the tertiary sector. Do you get it? Right? So to understand all this, you first have to understand. Now, if you want to become an administrator, what do you need to know? You need to know your world better. You need to know, which mountain is where, what does plate movement do, from plate movement, how volcanoes are created, how earthquakes are created. Have you ever thought of what is the importance of understanding earthquake or plate movement? हमें क्या फर्क पड़ता है daily? It doesn't come in the newspaper, yes? But what is the relevance? By understanding those movement of the plates or the surface formations, you understand where, what activity would happen. Based on that, you project, and you can organize, the human settlements better. है कि नहीं? Let us say if an earthquake comes, and if you know how to predict an earthquake, you can save so many lives. If you know how to predict a tsunami, if you know how to predict a cyclone, so that's where we are working. We are trying to predict cyclones. We are trying to predict monsoon, right? If you read the newspapers, right, you find this year the IMD is going to apply for the first time the dynamic model of monsoon prediction, right? So as to predict the monsoon better. What is the usefulness? Whole of our agriculture depends on monsoon, majorly. And on our agriculture depends whole of the population in terms of its food requirement. If you don't get that, you don't have food security. If you don't have food security, you will again be back into the 1965 position. You have to import food grains from other countries. Okay? So this is the basic relevance. This was just to give you the relevance, and that is the purpose why UPSC has put geography into your syllabus, right? This is one thing. Now the second thing, how do you? So I hope you understand the why of this story, right? The next is, if it is so relevant, the second thing is, in this why only, where all does geography fit into your syllabus? Let us be slightly faster so that we can be on time for the next session. Where all does geography fit in? It's there in your PT syllabus, right? It is there in your GS paper 1, right? And slightly it is there in your GS paper 3 also, right? Cropping patterns, if you remember, right? Agriculture related issues are there, Then infrastructure related, transport, railway line, all this is there. They ask you those questions also, right? So this is how your geography syllabus is distributed in your UPSC preparation. In addition to this, UPSC at times they also ask you questions in your essay, the 250 plus marks, part where you have to write an essay and you have to get your score. So the whole topic could be related to geography, and you could write an essay well, provided you understand that aspect of geography. In addition to this, in the interview also, many times they ask you questions around resources. Which resource, where do we find, right? So until unless you understand this geographical aspect, you won't be able to go deeper into those topics so as to answer them. And if your answer is superficial, your marks would be, you understand this, right? And hence you need to generate some interest over the period of your. So if you're just able to see this, if you see geography like this, you would really get too much interested into it, and you would, over the period, you would start liking it. And once you like it, it won't fade from your memory, I can assure you, right? So try to develop this kind of an approach. Next is where we read it from, right? The where for geography is very simple. It starts with your NCERTs, right? And which NCERTs? The new NCERT, right? Where do I get it from? NCERT. visioniart.nic.in. Log into this. There is a section. First, they will ask you click Hindi or English. You click English or Hindi, whatever you want. Then there is a section called your publication. In the publication, there is a section called as ebooks. In the ebooks, you have to pick the class and then the subject and then the book. And you can download the book free. Right? You don't even have to buy it. Right? Now, yeah. I'm coming to that. Right? So this is where you get the book. Now, once I say this, this means that I'm talking only about the new NCERTs. I'm not talking about the old NCERTs. You don't need to start with the old NCERTs. Though many people say they are good, but UPSC of late has started asking questions directly from the new one. And if you don't have time, right, then it's better that you start with this. Later on, if you find time, you go through the old one, you add up the new topics or whatever additional understanding you get. But don't start with the old one, right? Start with this, okay? Now, which ones we start with? Class 11th and class 12th, right? I don't want you to go into any other basic book. Right? Reason being, your class 11th and 12th NCERTs are very simple. If you don't understand, that's when you go into a junior level book. But if you're able to understand, there is no point. Right? Because your 11th and 12th is the most comprehensive. There is nothing in 7th, 8th, which is not there in your class 11th, 12th. You get it? So we start with your class 11th and 12th. Which are the NCERTs in class 11th and 12th? 11th, there are two books. The first one is called as Fundamentals of Physical Geography, right? And the second one is India Physical Environment. Physical Environment, right? Fundamentals of Physical Geography, you miss the first chapter, not needed. Disciplines of Geography. If you want to read, but there isn't too much that you need to pick from there. Then the second chapter starts from the formation of the earth and the universe. After that, the third chapter starts with interior of the earth. The fourth chapter starts with your movement of continents and, tectonics, right? So continent and oceans, all this. After that, it gets into, once this is done, then it moves into your rock types, right? After the rocks, the next chapter is geomorphic processes. And then landforms. What is the sequence? First, the formation of the universe. After that, the formation of the earth. After that, interior of the earth. After that, the surface of the earth, right? That's how the process goes, right? And once they have talked about the surface, then they get into the smaller formations on the surface, such as waterfalls, or what all formations does the water create? What all formations do the winds create? Something like this, right? We call them as landforms, right? After this, it moves into climate. Right? So atmosphere and its formations, and then lastly, oceans. This is the sequence, right? Once you're done with this, then you come to your India Physical. India Physical starts with physical formation of India, then it goes into the rivers. It calls it as drainage. Why drainage? Because rivers basically do this only. They drain a region. Whatever water is there, that is efficiently collected and drained, and in the process supplied to different regions. Yes or no? The way you have drainage in a building, same way as you have drainage in a country. And that is what the rivers do, right? And from there it goes further. So, that part. After this, we come to your class 12th NCERTs. Now, class 12th again has two NCERTs. One is Fundamentals of Human Geography. Human Geography. Now, this book is required for your mains part, mainly. Right? Fundamentals of Human Geography, mainly for mains, right? The second benefit of this book is it helps you understand map, right? So it gives you a sense of the map things, right? And hence this is also of importance, right? Then the next is your India, people and economy, right? This book mainly talks or starts from the human settlements. Then it goes into agriculture, industries, transport, and trade, right? If you're done with these four, this is the basic thing that I would suggest that you need to stick. You don't have to go into any other guide, not required, right? For example, in polity, you have Lakshmikant. In history, you have the spectrum guide for the modern history. But in geography, you don't have such a guide, and it's not even required, right? The best part. So you just have to stick to these 4. In addition to this, you have the other book called as G.C. Leong, Certificate Physical and Human Geography by G.C. Leong, right? Right. So once you are able to cover this Certificate Physical and Human Geography, that is divided into 2 parts. Up to chapter number 14, it gets into climate, and after 15 to 25, it talks about the world regions. Right? So if I say G.C. Leong, in this chapter number 15 to 25, what I would expect you to read is, and which is of relevance, is your climate, right? Vegetation, and economic activities. At least this much, right? This is your chapter number 15 to 25 of this. That's it. If you're done with this, you are basically prepared for your PT, and you are to a great extent prepared for your mains also, right? How do you supplement it? You also supplement it with your map. So you take up any atlas, Oxford, or any one student atlas. That is good enough, right? Orient Longman, Oxford, whatever you want. Is that okay? Now, in addition to this, these were the basic sources. Now, current, where do you do it from? Refer to any current affairs source, any current affairs source, whichever you are comfortable, right? So VISION IAS gives you, other sources also are there, you stick to any one source, right? Plus 2 more, India Yearbook by Publication Division, right? And in India Yearbook, you have a few chapters, sir. I have another 2-3 minutes. Puneet sir, another 2-3 minutes? Yeah. So India Yearbook, you have chapters on land and people, agriculture, industry, transport, energy, environment, right? These are the chapters you need to do from your India Yearbook out of the 30 plus chapters which are there, right? From the geography perspective, broadly, right? If you are done with this, this is good enough, right? And then you have your economic survey, right? Of the respective year. For example, if you see this year's economic survey, last year there was a chapter on agriculture, there was a chapter on industry. This year they have not given chapters, there are pages which start from, for this year as I said, page number 155 onwards. There are 7-8 pages which are of relevance, right? This is it. If you're done with this, this is your geography thing taken care of, right? That's it. I would not suggest you to get into anything beyond this to start with, right? And then lastly, how do you come to know about this exam? The best source is the UPSC questions, right? That is the only source which is relevant to me. Don't go by anyone's word. It has no value, right? And which questions do you look for? Starting from last year's question, you go backward for 5 years. If you are comfortable, if you are able to make yourself comfortable with those 5-7 years questions in the last 5-7 years, that's good enough, right? And they give you a hint of what to pick and what to drop, right? That is the best driver. Okay, so that's all I have to say, right? I have discussed these 3 things. If you have any other question, you can ask me, or if you want, you can take the mail ID and mail me, right? That's it from me. Harsh for csc@gmail.com. I'm always there at Vision. Whenever you want, write me and come over and we can discuss. Right, so any question? Acha rahega. There are so many engineers who are taking it up and clearing this exam, right? But over a period, I would suggest first develop your interest, because for any optional, you need interest, right? Anything else? Come again? They do ask questions. They do, so you have to. That chapter on geomorphic processes and landforms in your NCRT and your G.C. Leong, the 5 chapters, you have to do, because they ask questions. Certain places in Atlas are missing, you try to Google it and get it. Just write it. That's the only source. Anything else?
में चैप्टर नंबर 1 to 14.
हाँ 1 to 14 उसके अंदर आपको फर्स्ट चैप्टर नहीं पढ़ना है, उसका फर्स्ट पार्ट नहीं पढ़ना है, सेकंड पार्ट पढ़ना है, विच इज लैटिट्यूड एंड लॉन्गिट्यूड्स. Right, rocks you have to read, mountains and all you have to read. After that it gets into geomorphic process, and after that the 5 chapters on landforms you have to read. ठीक है, oceans, corals you have to read. Climate, weather you have to, but in weather you can drop the part which talks about the measurement methods, because that is in a different unit which UPSC doesn't ask. So that's it. Anything else? That's it. So ma'am is already waiting. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about any subjects. The subjects experts are there. So when you join VISION IAS, I'll be your program coordinator. So throughout the year, if you have any needs, I'm the point of contact for you. So how many of you are freshers here before we start the session? Like immediately, okay. So 100%. I start this question, any session with this question, because I want to know how my session should go on. So you all have gone through syllabus, previous year question papers, something about civil services. Yes? Yes? No? I have no clue. I just know I have to become IAS officer. There's nobody. So you all have some basic idea. From internet, friends, seniors preparing. Great. Yeah? Okay, nothing. So get on board with VISION IAS. So why civil services examination? I want it to be interactive. I won't take much of your time. Anybody?
Most prestigious job in India.
One by one. Not everybody.
Most prestigious job in India.
Most prestigious job in India. Yes, you.
He contributes
Big platform to serve people. Yes. Serve the country in the highest capacity.
explore our potential.
Explore our potential. You have to revisit your answers when you go for your interview. They ask why you want to.
You could touch the life of many people.
Okay, you can change the life of many people. Good. In what way?
Ma'am, we have the powers and the administrative, in our administrative capacity, we could take decisions which could hamper or could have a positive impact on the life of other people, like constructing a bridge or passing a road, like Armstrong Day.
Okay, good. You are in the right level to prepare for civil services examination. You remember this answer of yours, whatever you said, and you see how this answer gets molded as you prepare for this examination, okay? So there will be a lot of change in your answers, but what your thoughts are good, but the process will change everything, okay? So you all have taken a road which is very less traveled by. I think if there are 100 students in your class, in your college, in your classmate, maybe 1 or 2 would have chosen this path. So you have chosen the one road that is very, very less traveled by. So these are some very basic reasons why you would have chosen to appear for this examination. I hope nobody inside this hall is here out of your parents' compulsion. Anybody like that? Good. Because that is one reason which will not actually help you much. If you're here out of your own will, that you want to bring some change, you want to see the change, that's the only reason you have to be here. So you know about the exam pattern? Anybody who don't know about the exam pattern? There's 3 levels: prelims, mains examination, and interview. The first 2 levels is where you need a very high preparation. When you prepare very intensively for these 2 stages, during that process only you will get ready for your 3rd stage. You don't have to prepare anything specially for your 3rd stage. The 3rd stage, you prepare for the 3rd stage right from the day 1. So this is a very small fact. You know, before attempting for this examination prelims, 1 month before the examination you get some notification, 2 months before the examination. So in the notification they tell you how many people we are going to select from the final list. Some 900 to 1,000. So for that 1,000 candidates, how many candidates usually apply? 11 lakh candidates. And if 1,000 candidates are chosen from 11 lakhs, so how difficult is this examination? How difficult? It's not very tough. See, if 11 lakh candidates apply for it, not more than half of it will write. somewhere about 5.5 lakhs will write. In that 5.5 lakhs, there will be again 50% of them, somewhere about 2.5 lakhs. Just on the day of examination, they go and appear because they have applied. In that remaining 2.5 lakhs, around again 50% or let's say 30-40% will start preparing for the examination 1 or 1.5 months before. So now you are left with somewhere 50 to let's say 1 lakh of candidates. In that 1 lakh candidates, there are first timers who are serious preparing people, second timers, third timers. So in that 1 lakh candidates, again, people who lose getting into the next stage, they lose the marks by 1 or 2 marks because they are tensed. Even before entering the exam hall, they say, I might not clear this attempt. They fail even before entering the stage. So you will actually compete exactly with somewhere about 50,000 candidates actually who had prepared very seriously for this examination when you go for this first stage of examination. So you just see, you should be one among that 4 or 5 candidates who's appearing very seriously for this examination. You don't have to fight with 11 lakh candidates actually. So it is actually a tough examination or an easy examination. It's easy if you prepare really well. So for each and every subject, you would have got information from the faculty, which books to read, what to read, and don't talk to too many people. Listen to very few, because when you keep talking to many people for guidance, you will get confused. And at the end, you will end up doing nothing. You will buy Yojana Kurukshetra because somebody is telling you will buy D.D. Basu, Lakshmikant, Subhash Kashyap, everything. And then you will download documents of PRS, you will download document of some law. You will start becoming a lawyer instead of preparing polity. You will start go deep inside each and every clause. So don't go like that. Just stick to 1 or 2 reference books, revise, keep revising it again and again. So you just don't have to manage your time, as in every one of us in this room has the same time, same 24 hours, 7 days a week and 365 days. All of us celebrate New Year on the same day. There's no separate timing for each one of us. So just manage yourself in the same given time. That is the difference from what others are doing. So I'll talk about the foundation course, what you will see in 2018 foundation course, which is going to start day after tomorrow. So there will be regular classes, 6 days a week, a class. We'll start with 2 subjects at a time, not more than 2 subjects. Let's say we'll start with polity and history until the subject is over. Let's say if history is 14 or 15 classes, let's say, for example. So until that 12, 13 classes are over, we won't go to the next subject. And then polity will be continuing along with the 3rd subject, because polity we cannot finish it with 10 or 12 classes. And then you will be, in your class, you will find a batch coordinator who sits in the class. So the batch coordinator is like second faculty in line. They will not be teaching you, but they'll help you with the entire guidance, what to prepare, what to study. They'll be there to handle the queries of online students. And after class, if you need any help, if you have any queries, they'll always be there. And we'll conduct regularly classroom tests for prelims. If certain portions of the syllabus is covered, we'll conduct a prelims test for said portion. And then for the mains. Mains is like before writing mini test for mains, where some 7-8 questions are asked in a paper. Before that, on a daily basis, we'll be giving you assignments. So why this assignment? Today I have taken a topic from A to E. So there will be some basic question asked for you in the class from the topic C, let's say. So that will be a very basic question where we require the student who had attended the class and who has understood what has been taught in the class should be able to write an answer for that. Don't write for pages after pages like you write in the university examinations. It should not be more than 200 or 250 words. So let your thoughts flow. Just go through your syllabus once after you go back home, write an answer and upload it, get it evaluated by the coordinator, you get the feedback. So this way you prepare yourself for writing mains answers. And then mini test will help you in a next level, where there might be some current affairs included in the question, or little bit difficulty than the very basic question that has been asked in classes, which again prepares you for the All India Test Series, which is independent from your classroom program. All India Test Series is completely independent. Whenever you want to write the test, you can write, and that any test for that matter you can write whenever you want. It is very flexible. If you feel, no, today I have not prepared to write an assignment, you have a time limit for that. It's not that class 1 April 10th ka assignment question you will write next April. You can't do that. Then there's no point. The whole purpose of giving an assignment question in the class is not there. It's somewhere, try to finish the assignment question within 48 hours so that you know you are in track with the subject. And then PT 365 and Mains 365, we won't cover monthly current affairs for you. At the end of the year, there will be a comprehensive coverage of the current affairs topic wise. But when you will find very highly useful this PT 365 and Mains 365 is when you daily read your newspapers and substitute it with Vision's monthly current affairs, then PT 365 will really help you. You won't feel you have missed really anything. So start even before the beginning, so don't delay it. You are at the right moment if you want to prepare for this examination. So I'll just roughly show you, this is how your classroom platform looks. There will be classes. You won't have so many classes, only your class would have been, will be there as a part of it. Whatever course is assigned to you. So your live classes will be here. You can, let's say you're not being able to come to class. You're in travel or you're somewhere, you're not in a position to travel, but you can watch the classes, you're ready. You can always watch the class here. You can ask your academic queries, and if you have any technical issues, you can write it here. You will get a reply. And then, if you're not being able to watch even during the live, when the classes are live between 2 to 5, you're not being able to watch, you want to watch it at midnight, watch it. Still, if you have some doubts, you can always put it there, you get a reply. And all your subjects will be like this at the left-hand side. And you can find your self-test, like after the class, in the same day of the class, we'll give some few questions, test yourself. You don't have to write answers for it, just ask yourself these questions. And then assignment questions are here. Either you can write the assignment question and scan it with your mobile and then upload it here, or you can submit it the next day to the batch coordinator. You can use the Talk to Expert session to ask your query when there are no live classes. During the live classes, you can ask in the chat option, and when it's not live, it's a recorded class, you can ask here and leave your feedback about the classes here. We'll get it, we'll work on it. Whatever you have, any request, any feedback, any suggestions, you can always write to us. We are always there because we want you to prepare well for this examination. We want to be there at every stage. If you find any difficulty, if there is any help that you require, we are there to give all the support as possible with the help of material, with assessment. See, Vision IAS. IAS is not Indian Administrative Services, which is a part of Vision IAS. It is Innovative Assessment System. This is what Vision IAS stands for. So we assess you at every level. Immediately after the class, few days after the class, then through All India Test Series. So regularly we assess you, and through self-test. In all possible ways, we do whatever possible help we can to help you prepare for this examination. So any questions you have, this is your, and then this is where you see the class, and you will find your prelims test series, All India Test Series. See, prelims test series, All India Test Series, everything will be uploaded here. And if you have any doubts, there are expert support. Usually you can write to classroom@visionias.in, any academic doubts or any help you want, we are there. Anything else, guys? Any queries you have specifically regarding the course, what this course contains?
PT 365 classes are online?
Yeah, PT 365 and Mains 365 classes are given online access for you. Yes?
And duration of courses?
It is 180 to 200 classes, so roughly 10 months.
Okay, and after that?
After that, it's done. Your courses is done. See, there's nothing to laugh. You have to know the answers, guys. See, again, this program we have divided into 3 parts. If you are joining for this year, let's say you're joining for the 2018 program, 2018 prelims will be somewhere in the month of, let's say, next May or June. You can watch your classes. Your actual classes will be end before the prelims, because you are the April batch. It should be over somewhere by next March or something like that. So, but you can watch your videos until the final results of the examination. Okay, and if you're not very sure of writing next year's examination, 2018, or you might write in 2019, there is, if you see an option in the payment section, you will see alternative classroom program for 2019 and 2020, which means you will finish your classes this year, you will attend this year's prelims test series, mains test series, PT 365, mains 365 of this year you will attend, and you will also get access to the same next year's test series of prelims, mains, and next year's PT 365 and mains 365. So you are taking a top-up classes along with this year together for a nominal fee. Yes?
Test will be conducted in the next April, May or not?
Test, once it is released, it will be added to your platform. You can see in your mains, under the mains section, and see, you see mains and prelims, right? You see under that section, whichever module is added to you, you will find it inside the tab. Whenever you want, you can take it. Just a prelims ka test series, any day before prelims. If June, you can go to the test center and give your tests. You need the attendance sheet for that. You have to collect it. You have to collect your ID cards. And if you see if you're not in Delhi, if you are somewhere else, we don't dispatch or we send any hard copy material of the test series. You can write take the printout of the mains paper, write the test, scan it. There is an option here, you have upload mains copy. You choose the test code of which copy you want to upload. You choose the test code, upload it. We'll receive it immediately. Then we'll evaluate it and re-upload it in your platform. See, this is how, once after re-uploading, this is how the mains see, you can download your question paper, answer booklet for writing answer. After you write the answer booklet, you have to go to upload mains copy. You upload it, we evaluate and re-upload. When we re-upload it, you receive a message and you can see where this checked answer script. You can download the checked answer script and see it. An answer format is the model answer that we give. So under performance analysis, you can see what is your score and what is the top 3 score and the nature of difficulty of each question, which question is very difficult, medium level, EC level. For both prelims and mains, this option is there. In prelims, we have this post-test analysis, which tells you whether you attempted any question by a fluke or you guessed between 2 options. See, you have to be honest with your own preparation. So that will help you a lot. So if there are 30 tests, 25 tests, do post-test analysis for each test and know your performance. Anything else?
How often the mini test?
How often? See, how often mini test is conducted? Roughly, let's say in a month, 2 to 3? Yes. It is not exactly conducted in class. You have to go to the test center and write, or you can appear online at home, or even in mobile also open your website and then just apply. Yeah. Weekend batch has the same everything. All the features are same, except that in weekend batch you have 6 classes in the just 2 weekends. Saturday 3 classes, Sunday 3 classes, and for the entire week you are free. No, see, in regular days, every day there's 3 hours of class. Right, in the weekend we have morning 9 to 12, 12:30 to 3:30, 4 to 7, same 3 hours of class. Just that you will have a marathon classes continuously. In 2 days you have to attend 6 classes and you have the entire week to prepare for yourself.
During the weekday batch, suppose I'm coming on Monday, so there will be 1 subject or there will be 2 class of 1.5 hours?
No, it's if 3 hours of 1 subject classes. In a week you have 2 subjects. Let's say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday you have a subject, Thursday, Friday, Saturday you will have another subject. Or you will have mix. It's based on how we schedule the classes, but there will be 2 subjects per. Anything else? Thank you guys. Now you have a 10 minutes break, and after that 5 minutes, no, let's not take 10, let's take 5 minutes break. Then we'll have economic session by Pratik sir.
Good afternoon. So I think you people are being watching about the preparation to civil services. Yes or no? So how many services you are preparing through the civil service exam? You're getting my question? I'm saying how many services you are being appearing for through this examination? How many? 31. How many? 1. Which one? IAS. So I'm getting 2 answers, 31 and 1. Any other answer? How many services through this Indian Civil Service examination? Who conduct this examination? UPSC. What is the full form? Very good. Again, how many services? 40. Any? 40. Yes.
1 4 14.
Acha, 1 4 14. Okay, fine. Any other answer? 34. Sorry? All grade A services. How many grade A services? Numbers nahi pata actually. Okay. 21. So now we are having 4 options. What is the right answer? 20? 25. One more. How many all India services?
3 in this exam too.
Acha, in this exam 2, in total we are having 3. What are the 2?
IAS and IPS.
Which one?
IAS and IPS.
One second. What are the all India services? IFS. Which IFS? Foreign service. Okay. So is it an all India service?
Yes, already.
No. What is the difference between all India service and the central services?
All India services is responsible for central government as well as state government. Actually,
Okay.
Civil service is responsible only for central government.
Central government. Okay. So would you think any one you are able to tell the right answer? How many service you are preparing? Again the same question. How many services? 24 actually is the right answer. Mains examination. So you're filling about the service preference in the mains or prelims?
Means
Mains.
after clearing
After clearing the prelims examination. Okay. And any optional paper that you need to appear for the prelims examination? No. Only in the mains. Are you sure? Good. Very nice. So basically, you know that you people are not having exact idea that how many service you are going to appear. So tell me, IRS is in all India services? Revenue? All India services. Okay. So 2 IRS are there? Income tax and customer excise? Or is it only 1? 2. So basically that shows that how you people are serious about this examination. IAS is not all India. So basically we are having 3 all India services, IAS, IPS and Indian Forest Services. Okay. So for Forest Services, we are having a separate examination. Okay, fine. So in which year Forest Service was created? In which year the Indian Forest Service was created?
1864.
1864. 1964.
The Indian Forest Service was established in 1860s, 70s around.
1860s, 70s around, but after independence? 1966. Okay. Fine. Chali, let it be. I'm just asking this question because you should know, first of all, whenever you're appearing for some examination, that you should know how many services are there, what kind of syllabus is being given by the, the agency who is being conducting the examination. Like, as you know, whenever your people are being planning for any kind of tour or any kind of holidays, then you people are knowing that at which place you're supposed to go, which means of transport you're going to take, where you're going to stay, how much money you're going to spend. You know these things or not? Or is simply basically think that I'm going for trip and simply pack the bag and simply leave? No, obviously not. You have to plan something before going somewhere. So in the same manner, whenever it comes to preparing for any examination, that you should know the syllabus of the examination. That is the main thing through which you will be able to reach to your destination. And the second thing, that you should know that first, after seeing the syllabus, you should know that what kind of question has been asked by the agency who has been conducting it. Because after, seeing the syllabus, unless until you are not knowing the level of question, you won't be able to prepare yourself in such a manner that you will be able to clear the examination. So two things are being very essential whenever it comes to preparation for any examination, that you should see the syllabus, and the second thing is that you should know the level of question. Like if I'm saying, I need to prepare about the topic of banking in economics. Okay, so basically, let's suppose if you're being appearing for bank PO examination. So in the bank PO examination, when you see the level of question, the questions are being very basic and the very factual. Okay, so they're being asking anything about the banking. But when you see the UPSC prelims examination paper and you see the question of banking that has been asked by the UPSC, what you will find that they've been asking all the current things that has been going on, and moreover they will ask you conceptual thing, not factual thing they will ask. So when you prepare for civil service, you'll get to know that I need to prepare this topic in this particular manner. And if you're appearing for banking PO, then you will be able to know that I need to, prepare these things. So please, if you people have not seen the syllabus and the question paper of the last few years, I'm not saying you're supposed to see the last 10 years paper, just see last 3 to 4 years of question paper. Because every year UPSC is being changing, the way of question they're asking, the pattern of the question, and moreover, the difficulty level is also changing. Okay, so you should first of all see the syllabus and see the question paper and try to analyze it. I'm not saying that you have to mug up the syllabus thing. You should just analyze the, the level of question, and the second thing is the syllabus thing. So basically, my purpose of, showing you this particular slide is to make you aware that what kind of syllabus is being there for the UPSC, specifically for the economics section. Then secondly, two things I will tell you, that if you want to prepare yourself, then what kind of sources you can consult. And secondly, if you join the coaching, then how we people are going to train you for this particular examination. And then after that, I will also tell you in brief, then, what kind of approach you should follow when it comes to making the notes for certain things which require updation on a daily basis. Like for example, there are certain things which requires updation. Like you can say economics, IR, science and technology, social issues, polity, governance, these kind of things requires the updation. So I'll tell you in brief, how you can make your notes so that when it comes to revising, these kind of thing, like your notes at the time of prelims and mains. So you're not supposed to, bother about consulting any other thing. So make your notes in such a manner that you will be able to complete everything in a very less amount of time. So two things I'll tell you. Now after this, basically, in the prelims examination, UPSC has not clearly defined what kind of topics are being covered in your syllabus. They simply provided the outline. Like for example, 3 topics are being given. Like the very first one, the basic principles of Indian economy. Now in case of basic principle, what you're supposed to cover, you're having banking, you're having fiscal policy, inflation, foreign exchange, capital market, and the other issues about the economy. Okay. Second thing, social schemes of the government. Like this is one of the most hot favorite topic, I would say, of the UPSC for the last 3-4 years. Every year they're being asking at least 5-6 questions from the various schemes initiated by the central government. In fact, in the prelims paper of 2016, they asked 9 questions from the various schemes that has been run by the government of India, and moreover, certain things which is being run by the state governments also. So only those schemes run by the state government which are in news, not everyone. Okay. Third thing, social development through economic empowerment. Under that, you can simply, prepare for the topics like poverty, unemployment, population, then you're having this various types of budgeting, like specifically you can say gender budgeting. Okay. Moreover, these social issues like, the child labor. Then after that, you're having this farmer suicide and the other thing. So these things you're supposed to consult when it comes to the third topic. So prelim syllabus is being kind of very, very, I would say, undefined on the part of UPSC. Okay. Now what kind of weightage is being there for economics? Like in case of 2010, out of 100 questions, 36 questions only from the economics. So that was the year when highest number of questions was asked by the UPSC from economic side. Secondly, in 11, it was 16, then 19, 18, 22, 15, 29. So if you take the average of this, then what you will find, around 22 questions are being asked by the UPSC every year from the economics section. So you can expect at least 1/5 of your paper will come from which side? From the economics. So that is one of the portion that you're not supposed to leave at all. And I'm telling you, the questions that has been asked by the UPSC in your economics section is not very tough. All questions are being conceptual. If you're knowing things, then I don't think it will take a lot of time. So to solve this 20 question that will be asked by the UPSC in prelims in economics section, I think maximum 20 minutes it will consume to solve. I'll show you the questions, what kind of questions are being asked by the UPSC in the last few years. Secondly, when it comes to, the main syllabus, we are having so many topics in paper 2 and paper 3. Like first of all, Indian economy and issues related to planning, mobilization of resources. Like in case of any economy, we are having 4 types of resources: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. How we are supposed to mobilize so that we will be able to provide the maximum benefit to the economy. So in this topic, you're supposed to, see how the government of India planned from 1951 onwards for the betterment of the economy, or you can say for the growth and development of the economy. So mainly we need to focus here what? About the planning thing. What kind of approach we are adopting. So you can say from 1951 till 2017, we were following the 5-year plan approach kind of thing for the purpose of development. Now we are going to have a different set of approach after the dismantle of, you can say, Planning Commission. And now we're having what? Niti Aayog, National Institution of Transforming India. Okay. Then after that, growth, development, and employment. Then inclusive growth. What is inclusive growth? Means a growth which is being provided to each and every one. The growth should not be, limited to few people. It has to reach each and every one. That means it's a broader way of growth in the economy. Government budgeting, that is mainly about the fiscal policy thing. Then transportation, marketing of agricultural produce and issues and related constraints. About what? About the agriculture thing. Then e-technology in the aid of farmers. That how the IT and the e-technology is being helping the farmer in terms of, increasing the productivity and their better standards of living. Okay. Then issues of buffer stocks and food security, technology mission, economics of animal rearing, then food processing industry, land reforms in India, effects of liberalization on the economy. That means about the industrial policy after 1991. Then after that, changes in industrial policy and their effects on industrial growth. Again, after that, you can say from 1991 onwards. Then issue related to poverty and hunger. One of the most interesting topic, I would say, of the economics section, because under that you will get to know about the reality of India. Like when we people are sitting in Delhi, we are finding that we are getting everything. But if you see the real India, then you will find the real issues. And I think those are the issues that you're going to solve when you be part of the Indian administrative services. Like if I'll tell you this line, out of the total poor at the global level, 1/3 are living in India. Then what do you think? Is it the right statement? That global level पे हर तीसरा गरीब आदमी कहाँ रहता है? भारत में. What do you think? Is it right or not? So that is a statement given by the World Bank. Okay, so they are having their way of defining poverty. So you'll get to know on what basis they are being saying this kind of thing. So this topic basically, poverty and hunger is also, kind of very important from the essay point of view. Then important international institution like WTO. Then you're having World Bank, IMF, and the UN. These are the 4 things that is being mainly asked by the UPSC, or you can say targeted by the UPSC. Then issues related to direct and indirect subsidies and minimum support price. Again, you can say related to the agriculture. Public distribution system, you can say part of agriculture only again. Infrastructure, and then lastly is the investment models. So that is the broad syllabus, you can say, of the UPSC for economics section. Now, if you see the weightage, that is a weightage of economics in the last, 4 years in paper 2 and paper 3 combined. Like in 2013, it was 135, then 130, 150, and 150. So on an average, you're having around 140. That means around 15% weightage is there of economics section in your mains examination. And the questions are being kind of very lengthy and moreover highly connected with so many topics. Okay. Now, point is how you can prepare about these things. See, like when it comes to consulting the NCERT thing, so do remember we are not supposed to refer anything related to the microeconomics. Only macroeconomics you people are supposed to refer. Like in the 9th NCERT, first of all, there's no need to buy any NCERT, just go to the NCERT website and you will find all the NCERT books are for free. That's why I'm writing it's free, free and free, completely free, okay? Just download the given chapters as I have mentioned here. Like in the 9th standard NCERT, the name of the book is Social Science Economics. So chapter number 1, 2, 3 and the last chapter that is called Food Security in India. So that is a part of a main syllabus topic. In the 10th standard NCERT, the name of the book is Understanding Economic Development. Okay, under that chapter number 1, 2, 3, 4 and the last chapter called Consumer Rights. Also very important. The 11th NCERT basically, the Indian economic development, you can refer the entire book just for the sake of basic understanding. So this book is being kind of very, very general in nature. Then after that, 12th NCERT, only the macroeconomics you're supposed to refer, not the micro one. No demand supply, we're supposed to read. Only macro. In that, chapter number 3, 5, and 6. In fact, these chapters, will be more clear like when we discuss about the banking, fiscal policy, inflation, and the foreign trade in your classes. So once we complete this thing, then you can simply refer the 12th NCERT because certain things given in these chapters are being kind of little tricky. You won't be able to understand it completely. Getting my point or not? That is basically these 4 NCERT. Once you will be able to complete these 4 NCERT, okay, then you can buy any of these books. I'm not saying you're supposed to buy all the 4, any one out of these 4 books. Like Indian Economy by Datan Sundaram, Indian Economy by Mishra and Puri, Indian Economy Performance and Policy by Uma Kapila, and then Indian Economy by I.C. Dhingra. Personally, I would say, if somebody will ask me, then which book you like the most, then I would say I like this one as the most one, the I.C. Dhingra. Okay, a very good book, updated, and he tried to cover each and every aspect about the Indian economy. So, how many things, or you can say what kind of chapters you're supposed to consult in this particular book? Like this book is almost, I would say, 1,000+ pages. So, what you're supposed to do here? Simply mark the chapters in that which is being mentioned in your main syllabus. Once you will start marking the chapter in this particular book, I think only 400 to 500 pages will be there that you're supposed to study. And the remaining book, you're supposed to leave it completely. Okay? That's why I said, if you will be able to know the syllabus, then you will be able to know what you're supposed to read. Because in this examination, I think time is one of the things which is being very limited. And under the limited time, you have to prepare so many things. Like for example, I'll show you one more thing, before going to the next slide. See, this is the UPSC main syllabus. So basically in this one, instead of dividing the syllabus on the basis of paper, I simply divide it on the basis of topics that you're supposed to cover. Like see, you have topics like Indian heritage and culture, then history of world and society, the second topic. Then third topic is geography of India. Then you're having other topic like social justice, 6th number. Then 7th, international relation. 8th, economic development. 10th, environment and biodiversity. 11th, security and disaster management. Okay, issues of ethics. And then after that, you're having issues of integrity and aptitude. So in total, how many topics you're supposed to cover? 13. So 13 topics is there in the main syllabus that you're supposed to cover. Secondly, those people who are from English medium, they're being also providing certain time, for the Hindi compulsory paper. Because I'm telling you, every year, around 2,000 to 3,000 people are failing in the language paper in mains examination. Because we people, I think, didn't write Hindi for the last 5 to 6 years, at least. In my case, I would say 7 to 8 years. Okay. So point is, when we are not writing Hindi, we have been committing so many mistakes when it comes to writing things. And moreover, when it comes to sentence formation and that. Like, that in daily, language that we're using when it comes to interaction with the other people, we are not using complete Hindi. You're using what? It's a kind of a mix of Hindi and English. But you cannot write mix of Hindi and English in your language paper. You have to write pure Hindi. कहाँ जा रहे हो? क्या कर रहे हो? आज क्लास नहीं जाना है क्या? क्लास की जगह क्या लिखेंगे? कक्षा नहीं जाना है क्या? But when it comes to writing कक्षा, the कक्षा will be like this. जब इस शब्द को बनाएंगे ना तभी गलती हो जाएगी एक दो बार. No, it's a reality. So you have to prepare Hindi also. Okay. Then after that, essay. Plus you are also having your optional paper. So 2 papers, I'm just taking it 2 subjects. Okay. So in total you're having 13, 14, 15 and then 17 topic in total that you need to prepare. How much time you having? 365 days. I'm giving you 1 year. 17 topic. Okay. So on an average, you people are having 3 weeks to prepare one thing, imagine. So those people who are from science background, they're not able to understand geography, and moreover history, economics in just one go. So they have to put extra effort in that. And those people from arts background, they're not able to understand, let's suppose the science and technology, economics and the other thing. So they need to put extra effort in that. Getting my point or not? So thing is, you're just having 3 weeks to prepare one thing. So if you people are being bothering about, referring so many things, then you won't be able to complete the syllabus of this examination. Getting my point or not? So that's why time is very crucial and very important factor in this examination that you need to manage properly. Otherwise, that is going to create a lot of issues. Otherwise, what happens if you keep on, referring multiple sources? Then first of all, you will not be able to make your opinion, and you will not be able to cover everything. You're going to waste a lot of time. Getting my point or not? So just refer one thing. Okay? And why I provided the syllabus in such a manner? Because in this thing, we should know what kind of things are being there which requires updation. So basically, when you make notes about certain areas like economics, IR, science and technology, and polity and governance, so like if this is your page, just leave certain margin here. Because suppose if I'm today discussing about the banking, I'm discussing about, let's suppose, this RBI function and about the borrowing program that is being conducted by the RBI for the government of India. But in the upcoming time, it is going to be, taken over by the Ministry of Finance. So what happened? Today when we discuss about this particular thing, I'm providing you only the current thing. But in future when the updation will come, so like let's suppose if you're being taking the cutting of the paper, if you're being simply saving something in the laptop, so when it comes to revising this thing at the time of examination, you will not be able to refer the thing that you simply saved in a laptop or in the file in the form of paper cutting. So what you're supposed to do, whenever any updation will be there, just mention on these side with the topic itself, so that you will be able to cover everything at the time of revising things. Getting my point or not? So make your notes in such a manner that you will be able to cover everything at the time of revising for the purpose of examination. Okay? So make notes smartly and make it very exhaustive, so that today you are being providing lot of time, but when it comes to revising at the time of examination, it is going to take very, very less time. Because today you can invest time, but that time you won't have lot of time to invest to locate where are my things that I need to revise. Getting my point or not? So for everything, just make one notebook. In that notebook, make things in such a manner that you're not supposed to refer any other thing at the time of examination. Yes or no? So this is the way, to divide the syllabus. Like for example, in this one, if I'll say the topic number, let's suppose 8, economic development. So you're having all the subtopics. So let's suppose if you're having this environment and biodiversity, so you're having all the topics and subtopics. Security, disaster management, you're having topics and subtopics. So you can simply start covering all the things one by one. Okay? So that is a very good way to cover things, when you know what I'm supposed to cover in one particular topic. Getting my point or not? So this is basically the syllabus bifurcation. Then secondly, Come back to the slide. Now, any of these books, then after that, once you will complete any of these books, then you can buy this one also. It's a very good book for the purpose of means examination. Indian Economy Since Independence by Uma Kapila. Uma Kapila, she was a professor in Medanda House College in Delhi University. Okay? So these are the books that you can refer of your own. So NCERT, these books and your newspaper will be able to cover your syllabus if you want to prepare yourself. Okay? Secondly, if you join the institute, then you're supposed to refer only the institute notes provided in the hard copy form, class notes that we will discuss in class and I'll provide in writing. And the third thing is that is a handout provided by me. So what I've done for the purpose of creating or making these handout, like I just provided you that these are the books that you're supposed to refer. So what I have done, I bought all these books. Okay, I simply copied those things which are required from the examination, and whichever is the best, or you can say whichever is the given in the best manner in these 4 books. So I simply picked that one and I simply incorporated in my notes. Okay. Secondly, Government of India's website like Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Transport and the other ministry. Then Economic Survey, budget document, okay, PIB website. So these are the sources which I consulted for the purpose of making my notes. So in total, I have a total notes of around 300 pages in the A4 sheet form. Okay, that will be given to you in your soft copy form. So like here you have one advantage, that if you will miss any of your class, you can simply see online. So in this online platform, what happened on the right side, you're having one link that is basically the class handout / faculty handouts. So there, whenever we discuss anything, the notes will be uploaded over there. So after the class, or you can say with the class itself, once you will be able to complete things, simply start referring these notes. So if you simply refer the class notes plus institute's notes, plus you can say the handout provided by me, I think you will be able to cover around 80 to 85% of a syllabus. Nobody can give you guarantee of 100% in UPSC, any institute, I'm telling you. Because examination is dynamic and certain questions are being asked by the UPSC which is being out of context, you can say, syllabus. So, getting my point or not? So my funda behind joining the coaching, that I should provide it lot of efforts from my side so that I will be able to minimize your efforts. Getting my point or not? Because if I am saying that you should focus only limited thing, then in that limited thing you will be able to get the maximum out of it. That is my funda. Okay, so if you refer these, then you will be able to complete comprehensively. And moreover, you have to read newspaper daily. That is the only thing that you cannot, avoid in UPSC preparation. At least 30-40 minutes you have to give to the, paper. So whatever newspaper you've been following, Hindu or Indian Express, both are being good. But from UPSC point of view, you can say Hindu is comparatively better. Okay, and moreover, how you will be able to reduce your time to read Hindu? See the syllabus of mains examination. If you know the topics, if you know the level of question, you will be able to know which article I supposed to refer and which article I supposed to simply leave. Okay, so please provide certain time for the purpose of seeing the syllabus properly. Okay. Now, if you see the question, like this question was asked by the UPSC in 2016 prelims. In the context of which of for the following do you see sometime find the terms called amber box, blue box and green box? What is the answer? It's a WTO. So when you discuss about the WTO, simply WTO is a topic from the mains point of view. But point is, question may appear in your prelims also. So as soon as you will read this statement, you will not think which statement I need to mark. You will simply start looking where is WTO in the options and you simply mark it. So it is not going to take a lot of time to answer these kind of questions. Okay. See the second question. Which of the following are included in the capital budget of the Government of India? So when it comes to making budget, we are having two types of thing. You can say revenue account and capital account. So revenue accounts is basically about the daily income and daily expenditure. And secondly, when it comes to capital account, you are having those income and expenditure which are being there for the long term. Okay. So suppose if you people are buying a car. So car is a one-time expenditure. But whenever you are being spending anything on the petrol, that is your daily expenditure. Okay. Suppose if you people are being taking loan from bank, it's a one-time income to you. But if you people are being, receiving something on a daily basis like your salary, it is what? It's a daily base income. No, that is fine. Like if you've been taking short-term loan, obviously it's a part of a daily, okay? But if you talk about a loan that has been there for more than 1 year, then it's a long-term loan. But normally, when it comes to providing loan in the government budgeting, you are being simply saying loans are for long-term purpose, okay? So in this case, expenditure on acquisition of assets like roads, buildings, machinery. So you are being making expenditure on these things once in a while. So it's a part of capital or not? Loans received from foreign government. Loans and advances granted to state and union territories, again once in a while. Then after that you have to select the correct code. What is the answer? Answer is D. Okay. So questions are not tough, they are all conceptual. They're hardly asking you any factual question. See the mains examination question. What were the reasons for the introduction of FRBM Act 2003? Discuss critically its salient features and their effectiveness. Okay, like this question was asked by the UPSC in 2014, and what was the reason behind that? Why they asked about the 2003 Act? Because in 2014, when the new government came into power, they were actually thinking what kind of targets we need to provide for the fiscal deficit. So a lot of articles were coming in the newspaper about, the targets and the other thing about the FRBM, and you can say for the fiscal consolidation thing. That's what the question was asked. Okay, so it's not like UPSC being asking anything just, that they want to make the people wonder that why I'm asking question that is being almost 10 years old. It's not like that. Point is, if something is in news, it is important for UPSC. Okay, then see the second question. Examine the impact of liberalization on companies owned by the Indians. Are they competing with the MNCs satisfactorily? A very general question. The only problem in this question is that you have to write in 200 words. Otherwise, if I'll ask you to write essay on that, it will be very easy. Yes or no? You know so many examples. Then after that, women empowerment in India needs gender budgeting. Like I was talking about the budgeting. So what are the requirements and status of gender budgeting in the Indian context? Like in the recent time, Government of India, every scheme they're being providing or reserving certain specific components for women. Okay, so that's why this question was asked about the women, you can say, empowerment and the gender budgeting. So it's not like UPSC is asking anything absurd. They're being asking only those things which are in news and basically requires the understanding of a candidate about the general development of the economy. Okay, so that is about the syllabus, questions, the weightage and the other thing. So like if you want to ask any question about the economics thing, then you can ask. Yeah. So class notes, institute note, hard copy form, and the soft copy notes provided by me. No, you can skip that because I've already included all these things which is being required from examination point of view. Books, like for psychological satisfaction, you can simply buy. वो होता है ना, जब इस एग्जाम की तैयारी करते हैं तो लगता है यार रूम में बड़ी बड़ी बुक्स होनी चाहिए. होता नहीं है मन में कि यार सबसे टफ एग्जाम की तैयारी कर रहा हूँ तो रूम में जब तक शेल्फ भरी ना हो बुक से तो मज़ा नहीं आता है. जैसे इंडिया एयर बुक नाम की एक चीज़ आती है, क्योंकि आपने इंडिया एयर बुक काफ़ी मोटी होती है, सब खरीदते हैं बड़ी खुशी से, बट जब उससे पढ़ने की बात आती है तो आई थिंक हार्डली यू पीपल आर रेफरिंग फॉर 1 day or 2 day. देन आफ्टर दैट इस साइड रखे यार कुछ और पढ़ते हैं. तो होता है, सेटिस्फेक्शन भी तो चाहिए होती है ना कहीं. सो इफ़ यू वांट टू बाय फॉर दैट पर्पस you can always buy any number of books. But point is, if you will buy it, if you will not read it, तो मन में एक ना वो रहता है, यार ली थी पढ़ी नहीं है अभी तक, पता नहीं ढंग से मैं तैयारी कर रहा हूँ या नहीं कर रहा हूँ. बराबर वाले ने तो पूरी पढ़ ली, वो जबकि वो झूठ बोल रहा है पक्का, उसने नहीं पढ़ी है, वो सिर्फ बोल रहा है जिससे क्या प्रेशर में आ जाए. और कुछ लोग क्या होते हैं, वो अपनी बुक में ना बहुत सारे मार्कर यूज़ करते हैं, अलग अलग कलर लगाते हैं. जैसे जब उसकी कभी आप बुक खोल के देखेंगे अरे उसने सारी पढ़ डाली. जो सर बुक में इतना कलर करेगा ना वो कभी नहीं पढ़ेगा. और आई थिंक कुछ लोग तो बुक की कोई लाइन नहीं छोड़ते कलर करने से. सब कुछ ही इंपॉर्टेंट है, सब कुछ पढ़ डालो. ठीक है, बोलिए कुछ और, कोई एनी. Hindi, start reading the newspaper. Yeah, any Hindi newspaper you can refer. I'm not saying that you have to read it for 1 hour or 2 hours daily. Just give 15-20 minutes and just try to understand, how they're writing things and what kind of, matras they're being using. कि मात्रा है क्या, छोटी यू की आ रही है, बड़ी यू की आ रही है, ठीक है, कहाँ फुल स्टॉप। और फुल स्टॉप तो कई बार क्या होता है ना, आदत ऐसी पड़ी होती है इंग्लिश वाले फुल स्टॉप की, लिखते हिंदी है पर लगाते यही है, तो वो गलती मत कीजिएगा। फुल स्टॉप तो ऐसा आएगा जी हिंदी में, सिंपल। नहीं सर, इतनी पासिंग मार्क्स तो लाने को टॉप थोड़ी करना है हिंदी के अंदर, बट पासिंग मार्क्स के लिए भी थोड़ा पढ़ना पड़ेगा, ठीक है। या यू कैन, बट यू कैन रेफर द, यार पंजाब केसरी खरीद लो डेली, उसमें चुटकुले आते हैं, कुछ झूठी न्यूज़ आती हैं, मतलब झूठी इन द सेंस हंसाने के लिए, वो देखना शुरू कर दो थोड़ा, और मतलब थोड़ा एंटरटेनमेंट भी हो जाएगा और थोड़ा मात्राओं का भी पता लग जाएगा, इतना कर लो।
For a beginner, can a beginner read a Shankar Ganesh book of economics?
Sir, I have no idea about this book. That I simply say no. Because in that particular book, there's so many things extra. So many things which is being extra over there. No need to refer any international economics books. They are all very bulky and will, consume a lot of time. No need. नहीं, देखिए डिपेंड करता है नेचर ऑफ क्वेश्चन। लाइक ट्राई टू जब आप हिस्ट्री पढ़ेंगे यू विल फाइंड वन अप्रोच कॉल्ड बुद्धिस्ट अप्रोच, जिसे बोलते हैं मिडिल पाथ। वैसे लेना तो सबसे अच्छा वो रहता है, बट पॉइंट क्या है, लाइक इफ समथिंग विच इज बीइंग वेयर यू नीड टू प्रोवाइड योर ओपिनियन, yes or no, then you have to take a stand. So if you're being saying yes, okay, then provide the positive point, and you are supposed to end the question on a positive note only. But if you're being saying no and you're being providing critical analysis for that particular thing, then in the end, that is in the conclusion part, do provide certain solutions. Okay, and how you will be able to make your own opinion, start thinking over it. पढ़िए और सोचिए, ठीक है ना? Any the point you want to refer? Any question? No. Okay. Now you have, yes.
लैंग्वेज पेपर में जो कोई स्पेसिफिक सिलेबस होता है या फिर ऐसे ही?
नहीं सर, उसमें सिर्फ ये लिखा होता है कि आपकी बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग पूछी जाएगी और 10th स्टैंडर्ड जो आपका होता है उस लेवल तक के क्वेश्चन आते हैं। इनफैक्ट इंग्लिश पेपर इज बिंग वेरी इजी नाउ, हिंदी पेपर इज स्टिल गुड लेवल, लाइक वन एसे विल बी देयर। वही तो बता रहा हूँ मैं आपको, एक तो ऐसे आएगा 100 नंबर का 300 में से, ठीक है, एक आपका आई थिंक एक लेटर आता है, एक अनसीन पैसेज आता है, थोड़े विलोम शब्द आते हैं, पर्यायवाची आते हैं, ये सब आता है उसके अंदर। तो वो यूपीएससी की वेबसाइट पे फ्री है, देख लीजिए आप, वो मिल जाएगा पेपर, आपको लेवल सब पता लग जाएगा। इट्स नॉट टफ, आई एम टेलिंग यू, इट्स अ डोंकीज जॉब। जितना भी बोझा ढो सकते हैं ढो लीजिए, बिकॉज द एग्जामिनेशन सिलेबस इज वेरी वेरी वास्ट, बट पॉइंट इट इज नॉट टफ, it will require time, it will require continuous study. Getting my point or not? So basically this is my email ID. So like if you need this slide and moreover the syllabus, any other thing, you can simply mail me on that @gmail.com. Gmail. Okay, Charlie, thank you very much and all the very best.
Yes, good evening all of you. So myself Dr. Suraj Suryavanshi, and I'm associated with Vision for last 4 years. Okay, I'm in faculty for ethics and integrity. So all of you must be knowing that this paper is introduced newly. I think it's not even correct to call newly because it's been 4 years also. Okay. But I hope you must be having little bit idea about this paper, because this paper is slightly different. The nature is slightly different from the rest of your 4 papers, GS 1, 2 and 3. Okay. So if you see the little bit of background of introduction behind this paper is trying to see the personality part, okay, which is earlier used to be tested through your interview. Okay, but interview it's of 25 minutes. And it is being said that until you achieve something, you can fake it also. Okay, so it happens a lot many times, because in 25 minutes, they can really not able to judge what kind of personality you are. Okay, And if you see the last 65 years of working of bureaucracy and the governance, there are many problems also, okay, in bureaucracy. Like one of the problem we discuss is the corruption. Okay, corruption, many other things associated with that. That is crony capitalism and rest of the other things. Now with the current time, with this 21st century, the theme of good governance is being talked. And in this, what is required is not a person needs to be only intelligent, but he needs to also possess some good value system. Okay, he should have a good attitude to works for the society. In this context, this paper was introduced. So why I am telling you this background is because in this particular paper, the theory part or the factual part, etc. is not that important. So certainly it is important, it has a role to play, but ultimately what is going to be tested is what kind of the value system you have, what is an attitude of you, okay, whether you have an inclination to work for the society or not, how do you see the things around you, what is your reflective understanding, what is your rational take on different issues. So these are the aspects which are going to be tested. Now these are being tested in two different ways. There are half of the questions that are the direct questions and rest of the half are the case study questions. Okay, so this is a very basic introduction of this paper and we will see the syllabus also. So the whole matter boils down to that what sort of a value system that you possess. Now why we are discussing the theory part also is for the simple reason. There is, if you see the humanities, all the subject of humanities, you will invariably will have the thinker portion and there are certain core parts and then you have certain applied parts of this, applied part for the subject. Same way here also you will learn there are certain theories or there are certain themes. As ethics as a subject, it will have its own theory. And then in the second part, there will be a more of a application. So if you see here, the heads, there are 6-7 heads are there. This is the syllabus of UPSC. And if you see there are 7 heads. Out of these 7 heads, first 5 heads, like I'm reading this ethics and human interface. And second is the human values, attitude, aptitude, emotional intelligence, and contribution of moral thinkers. These 5 heads are the part of your theory. So I'm just trying to divide this paper into 2 parts. Okay, if you see the syllabus, that is paper 4 syllabus. Paper 4 syllabus can be broadly, although UPSC has not divided this way, but you can divide this part into the theory part. Okay, and second part is the governance part. Is a good governance part, application. Now theory part is, there's a core part of paper. Every subject will have its beauty, it have its language, it have its concepts and some theoretical framework. So this is what is the first 5 things. Like let me very, very briefly take you through the syllabus. What is the syllabus included in the ethics? So the first, if you see the ethics and human interface, okay, the first part. So here, first, second, third, fourth, and 5. This first 5 chapters I'm discussing. So first is ethics and human interface. I'm reading, what is it written is essence, determinants, consequence of ethics in human action, dimensions of ethics, ethics in private and public relationship. So this is an introduction part. Okay, what do you understand by ethics? There are words called morality, ethics, values, why we should at all follow the ethics in life. Is there any necessity of following the ethics? So these are all the aspects that are being discussed. Apart from that, 2 important things here is, one is the determinant, the word determinants of ethics, and second is the dimension of ethics. A little bit something about the determinants of ethics. Determinants of ethics is something that what determines every individual's value system. Like we have been a part of a society, okay, since like we have been affected by different elements of the society, right from the family, school, okay, your peer group, media, social media, religion, okay, these are the aspects which determine the value system of a particular person. And likewise, we have a different value system possessed by different people. Like we come across something called as intolerance in the society. This intolerance is because a particular person is reflecting his own value system. Now, if his value system is very, very parochial, narrow, conservative, and traditional in nature, this will come in conflict with the traditional, parochial, conservative value system of other person. So both there is a value conflict, and this value conflict may create a sense of intolerance. Otherwise, if you see that there can be a more liberal upbringing also, Okay, there is a one particular person whose family, school, peer group, etc., etc. So he is more modern in outlook. He is believer of more modern values. Okay, he is not a conservative, but a more on the liberal side, the moderate value. So that kind of a value system is created. So that's a part that is the determinants of ethics. This is very important because ultimately an individual is product of the different determinants. Second is dimension of ethics. Now this is very interesting area, that ethics is not a mathematics or the science, that on a given particular situation, what is right thing to do. Okay, that cannot be determined by single one particular criteria. There are different criterias, and how do you, which criteria you use in a particular situation, that is going to determine whether your action is correct or your action is not correct. Okay, like say for example, the simplest one is generally we discuss the theories of means and ends. Okay, sometimes what we do is that this end and this is means. Now the action is judged whether the action is morally correct or not on the basis of two things, means and ends. So sometimes what happens, say for example, you are clearing the exam, but then you are cheating. Now whether it is morally correct action or not, or ethically correct action or not. Sometimes people will say that if you are achieving the end, then everything is justified. Okay, it does not matter how you are achieving the goal. End justifies mean. Okay, there are various scholars like Machiavelli and Kautilya talks about Sam, Dam, Danda, Bhed. Okay, Kautilya's philosophy particularly, it's talk about that we should focus on the ends. But if you see, there can be another particular person who is not cheating, who is hardworking, but he has failed. Now how the society is going to judge different people, you see. Because some of the people will going to see that something is good based upon the ends, and they say that the means are immaterial. You see the politics also. Mostly this principle is applied in politics, where we see that whether you have one particular election or not, okay, it does not matter what the means are being used. But this is where we see that there is a dearth of ethics in politics, where the means are being completely ignored, and the only end, that is holding the power or grabbing the power, has become end in itself. Whereas on the other side there can be, so there are different dimensions. Likewise you will see that many dimensions to the ethics. These are only 2 dimensions that we have discussed. There can be 10 dimensions. Okay, that is what we are going to discuss here in the dimensions of ethics. Like say for example, if SEZ has to be created, okay, and all of you understand this, there is special economic zone has to be created. Now this special economic zone is going to benefit 80% of the area in a city, if this is an assessment. But then 20% of the family have to shift it. Okay, and there is a land acquisition, there is an issue of rehabilitation, there are tribal communities maybe living in some far-flung outskirts areas, and you need to remove this family in order to create an SEZ. Now this is a case study will be given to you, and they will be asking you that what sort of ethical dimensions that you understand. Now there is one principle called as Bentham's principle of greatest happiness of greatest number. So according to Bentham's principle of greatest happiness of greatest number, maybe this is justified, because ultimately we have to see that is a happiness of greatest number of people. Now should we take this formula into consideration, that happiness of greatest number of people should be the criteria for determining the ethics and morality of a public action? If we are going to take, then at every point of time the discrimination against minority is getting justified. If we are always focusing upon this part, then we are never going to develop. Are you understanding? So these are the different dilemmas of public policies and how you come out of these different dilemmas. The same case here, if I say that here you need to cut some 100 trees in order to create a SEZ. Now this dilemma becomes environmental ethics versus the development. So should we focus on the development or should we focus on the environment? So these are the different debatable issues, and different debatable issues will have different dimensions. So these are not factual things. Whatever you are going to learn in your paper 1, 2 and 3 in GS part, that is your knowledge base. But this knowledge base, how you are going to use while making the public policies, that's a matter of your ethics paper. Are you understanding? Because that's the whole part of it. Now, the second part is human values, lessons from lives of teaching of the great scholars, etc. So this is ultimately the determinants of ethics chapter they are talking about, because in determinants of ethics, the values come from family, society, educational institutions, great leaders, etc. What is their impact? Second point is about the attitude. Third is aptitude and foundational values. Now, let's come to the attitude little bit. Attitude is something that determines human behavior, okay? Something which is there, that is where we see that the manner in which we think, the manner in which we feel, and the manner in which we act, that everything is determined on the basis of our attitude. And the attitude itself is a product of determinants of ethics. Okay, what are the sort of the values that have been inculcated in you since childhood? Those values are going to determine your attitude. And this attitude is going to determine your behavioral action. Okay, so whatever our behavior is a product of our attitude, and attitude itself is a product of our upbringing. So this is the relationship. And let's think about what sort of question the UPSC asks from the attitude part. There can be a direct question also, which is a theory part. What do you understand by attitude? How the attitude is being formed, and what are the application of attitude in governance? That's a simple part, but let's understand more applicable part of it. More applicable part of it can be divided into two parts. One is the attitude of bureaucrat in the society. Okay, one of the reason for introduction of this paper I have mentioned is the corruption. Okay, and another within that part of corruption, one of the thing that they discuss is the attitude of bureaucrats. Now they say that bureaucratic apathy. You understand this word? This is insensitivity towards the common man. Okay, that they are being apathetic towards the common man and their problems. They do not go out of the way in order to understand the problem of the weaker section of the society, downtrodden, marginalized, poor people. Okay, they simply ignore them. They simply follow the rules. Okay, now it does not mean that rules are not to be followed, but it also means that beyond the rules there is something, that is a humanistic angle is also required in order to understand the problems of the weaker section of the society, the downtrodden, the marginalized one, so that the vision of the good governance can be achieved. So this bureaucratic apathy is a part of attitude. Now we have to understand that why bureaucratic apathy is there, what is the origin of bureaucratic apathy. What is required then? What is required is bureaucratic apathy has to be converted into empathy and compassion. So this is an attitude that we need to bring a change into the bureaucracy, from the bureaucratic apathy, that is about being an insensitive and indifferent towards the problems of weaker section of the society, to be more empathetic and compassionate. Now, while understanding this problem, we have to see why the bureaucratic apathy has developed. If you see that it has a colonial origin also. Okay, colonial origin because the bureaucracy has emerged during the British era. And the Britishers ruled the country in order to exploit the resources and etc. So bureaucrats of that day are expected to act against the interest of public. They are expected to work more in favor of Britishers. Okay, and what has happened? Even after the independence, the same attitude has continued. Okay, so only here the bureaucratic, British rule has got replaced by the Indian political masters, and the bureaucratic sense of this apathy still continued. So after independence, there has not been a substantial change with respect to change of attitude. And because of this, there are many problems, again, the corruption, developmental issues, etc., etc. This is also known as a status quoist attitude. Status quoist means you are not thinking of change. Okay, it's not a change oriented. It is, as the things are going on, you are trying to maintain that particular same structure. So that's about the attitude. Second, this is about the within the governance. Second aspect, which is a very potential one, they ask in the form of case studies or in a different manner also, that there are different social evils that exist in the society. Okay, and the root cause of all these social evils is in the attitude. You take in communal violence. Okay, the attitude is basically, that is a communal attitude. Okay, that is a religious fundamentalism that we call. This religious fundamentalism and the fundamentalism, extremism, absolutism, this does not leave a space to respect the other people's religion and their cultural values. So that also give rise to the intolerance. Same is case of the caste. There are number of caste prejudices in the society. On the basis of somebody's caste, okay, we try to judge the people rather than on the basis of the merit. We try to judge the people on the basis of the caste, on the basis of the color of the skin, on the basis of the religion. So these are the prevalent prejudice. On the basis of gender also, because we have this something called as a patriarchal attitude. Patriarchal, that is a male dominating attitude. So that patriarchal attitude has to be replaced by the gender sensitive attitude. Okay, in fact, not only the gender, but we have the sex discrimination also, that is LGBT community. Okay, I hope everybody understand this. That is a discrimination against the LGBTs, that is a lesbian, gays, bisexual and transgenders. So these sort of prevailing prejudices is because of the narrow attitude that we carry. So UPSC is going to ask the question and they're going to frame the question based upon this also. That is, this sort of attitude are prevalent. As an IAS administrator, what sort of actions you are going to take in order to change the attitude of the society. So in this particular portion, there is a comprehensive discussion on what is that which shapes the attitude, how to change the attitude. Because see, if the question is asking how to change the attitude, we must understand the theory part of it first. That is, what is an attitude, how it is formed, what are the negative attitudes prevalent in the society, and what are the different techniques of changing the attitude. One of the technique here they have mentioned is persuasion. If you see the last word, that is persuasion. Okay, so there are other many more techniques of changing the attitude also. So that is how we have to proceed. This paper will also help you in otherwise, say for example, in case of interview also, because once it shapes the bureaucratic understanding and what is expected out of the bureaucrat. So obviously the kind of the questions they ask, particularly the situational based question. So this paper will come handy in articulating your answer. Apart from that, this is also a lifetime learning also, because once you become a bureaucrat or otherwise also, if an enlightened citizen of the country, okay, you will understand what are the different dimensions of the society and how one is expected to behave in society. Next is there is aptitude and foundational values. Now so far we have discussed this attitude in general, but this third part specifically talks regarding the that is what are the values that are required to be possessed by the civil servants. Okay, so some of the values that I have mentioned to be possessed by is integrity, impartiality, non-partisanship, objectivity, dedication to public service, empathy, tolerance, compassion towards the weaker section of the society. So there are two lists of values here. One is the Nolan Committee and second is the Administrative Reform Committee second. So they have extensively talked about what sort of values that are required to be possessed by the civil servant. Once you possess these values, so it becomes handy for you in order to behave the manner in which it is required. Next is the emotional intelligence, same part. It's just an extension. This is another attribute, that is emotional intelligence is another attribute. Emotional intelligence, the thing is here I have talked about apathy, that is the insensitivity and indifference. Now, if there is a weaker section of society, person is poverty, malnutrition, downtrodden, marginalized, tribal, scheduled caste, okay, there are many problems associated with them. Now, understanding their problem means having an emotional connect with them. Okay, unless and until you put yourself into the shoes of their own, you will not understand the situation. So this requires an emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is how you can use your emotions intelligently in order to manage the things. Okay, that's the part of the emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence works at two levels. One is at individual level. You think yourself that many times it happens that you get driven by the anxiety, you get driven by the anger, you get driven by the frustration. So there are extreme emotions at individual level also. Emotional intelligence help you in controlling those things. Okay, that is avoiding the extreme emotions and following the middle path at individual level. So once you try and avoid the extreme emotions, so obviously you are in a good position to take the right decision. Otherwise, you will get driven by the extreme decisions. So that is about the emotional intelligence at individual level. Second is emotional intelligence at the societal level. That is understanding the emotions of the other persons and then trying to remain sensitive with respect to others' opinions, their particular behavior, etc. Next is about the contribution of the moral thinker. This chapter, see, the thing is, first 4 chapters, there is a little bit of theory in that. So all this theory is coming from the great philosophers of different times. Okay, so something, the ethics, what is good thing that is required to be possessed at individual level, or what is good that is to be possessed at societal level, does not fall from the sky. Okay, there must be certain great philosophers, great leaders who must have thought or talked about all these things, deliberated on all these things in the past, and those things we have to learn. So that's a part of the thinker and the philosophers. Now these are the first 5 chapters. Let me read again. The first is the essence, that is ethics and human interface. Second is an attitude. Third is aptitude. Fourth is emotional intelligence. And fifth is moral thinkers. These 5 chapters form the core part, that is your theory part. Second is the good governance part. So whatever we have learned here, we are going to apply in practice. Okay, that is where we see the public service values and ethics in public administration and the probity in governance. So these are the 2 chapters. That is, what is an application of this theoretical ethical framework into the governance. So in the governance, there are different things, like we have the problem of weak accountability, we have problem of weak transparency, we have problem of corruption, crony capitalism, etc., etc. So how these problems in the governance can be resolved by applying the different moral principles in the governance. So there we have this concept of good governance, we have the transparency and RTI, accountability and citizen charter, we have whistleblower policy. Okay, there is a whistleblower act that has been already came into being, but although not been implemented. Okay, so these are the aspects that we have to learn, that how we can apply the core principles of ethics into the governance. So that's a little bit of the whole introduction about the paper, and the last final, that is about the case study on the above subjects. So if you see this, this is a part of your syllabus. Now the kind of the questions that are asked in UPSC are 2. I have already mentioned we have this 2013, 14, 15 and 16 paper. So we have this 4 paper with us. Okay. Now by and large 250 marks, so they have divided into the 2 parts, that is 125 and 125. So this is a theoretical questions, and these are the case studies. Now many times it is being said that case studies you can directly venture into the particularly the exam. So that's not the case. Unless and until you study all the themes, okay, you will not able to write a very good answers. What you are going to write an answer is layman's perspective, okay, or maybe whatever the mediocre sort of understanding that you have on the society. But once you understand the different things, you will be in position to understand the different dimensions of ethics, and then your answer will be a more bureaucratic answer, or it will be a more politically correct answer. Okay, we need to see the different dimensions. That's why do not take case studies lightly, that you can venture the case studies directly in the examination hall. No, that's not the case. Okay, so this is the only 2 different ways of asking the same thing. Okay, same thing that they are going to ask what is mentioned in the syllabus, but in a quite different way. Now, having said this point, that is the syllabus and the kind of the questions they are going to ask. So let's say that how to prepare and what you need to be, what you start doing from now onwards. Like if you are preparing for 2018. See, I have already stated this. Compared to paper 1, 2 and 3, here you will not have too many facts. Okay, you need not have to mug up anything. Okay, in paper 1, 2 and 3 probably you need to mug up. Here it is more about the brainstorming. Here it is more about thinking on different things that is happening around you. Okay, once you need to read all the syllabus and obviously the specific information that is required for each heading. After doing, then you have to start relating all this theme in the day-to-day life. Okay, that's the most important part of preparation, because if you see the last 3 years question paper, so ideally what are the things that are required in preparation is, first of all, you need to see the previous year's question paper. So please go through the previous year's question paper meticulously in order to understand the nature of questions that are being asked in UPSC. See, different books will be given you a very deep theories on attitude, aptitude, emotional intelligence by different scholars. UPSC is not interested in asking all these theories. how you will get to know about it? Only when you will see the previous year's question paper. Because when the syllabus was introduced in 2013, there was no single book available in the market, and people, this ethics, maybe there in the management ethics is there, and in different other subjects, okay, at graduation level, or there were ethical theories which were already developed in the Western societies. So the books have shamelessly copy-pasted those theories and given it for the UPSC's purpose. But now 4 years down the line, we have realized that UPSC is not much interested in sort of asking PhD level question or postgraduate level question as a theoretical framework in ethics. Okay, it's more about very, very practical question from the bureaucratic point of view. So previous year question paper is the most important key in order to understand the nature of question and the nature of paper. Okay, that is UPSC. Second is, once you have understood, then you should start preparing different heads, so different books that are required. Okay, now books here, there is a chronicle publication, small book. Again, here you do not require a bulky book, like we have the Daniel Goleman's book on emotional intelligence. Somebody would tell you. So it does not mean that you should start reading emotional intelligence from the Daniel Goleman's book. That's not required. It's a syllabus which required 2 pages of preparation for emotional intelligence. Likewise, here it has not mentioned which moral thinkers, because in all the humanity subject, invariably there is a mentioning of different scholars, like if it is a sociology, public administration, political science, etc. Here they have not mentioned. It also means that they are not much interested in who is speaking which kind of value system. It's what is more important is different good values, different good attitudinal things that can be said by anyone in this world. It may be a contemporary one, it may be somebody who has said in the medieval time, it may be somebody who has said in the ancient time, it may be an Indian philosopher, it may be a Western philosopher. So what is important is that what sort of the good things that are prevalent in the society, that only you have to look into. So from the book's point of view, there is a small book by the Chronicle publication. So it's Ethics, Integrity and Aptitude. That's a good book, and that's a sufficient one. That's a book called as Lexicon. Okay, so lexicon book is enough, but if you want to go a little one notch more than that, there is a book by Aryan publication also. The name of book remains same. That is, what is the syllabus name? That is Ethics, Integrity and Aptitude, paper 4 or UPSC. So the publication I'm telling, this is a Chronicle publication, small book. If you want to go one notch ahead, then it is a Aryan publication. Okay, there is a book by Subbarao also. Certainly if you want more reference-based books. अभी सर ने बताया था कि unless and until you get the bulky book, you will not feel satisfied. So for those, there is a book by Subbarao. Apart from these 3 books, I would suggest that this will be more than enough. Okay. Apart from this, there is a ARC document, Administrative Reform Committee 2nd, and there is a report number 4. Report number 4, that is Ethics in Governance. Now this is a very, very good document, particularly for the second part, that is application of ethics in governance. So you must go through it, at least you must go through the summary of it. Are you understanding? So report number 4, Administrative Reform Committee 2nd. So apart from that, see the preparation here involves, that is meticulously reading of newspaper as well as the magazine, plus your internet, whatever you scan through the internet. So what you have to do is, whenever you come across some catchy phrases, whenever you come across some quotations, okay, you need to particularly make the note of it, because this paper also requires your linguistic skills, okay, because in this particular paper, or for that matter in case of your essay paper, okay, you need to be a very, very particular while using the terms, different vocabularies. So you need to have a good consolidated list of certain quotations, certain catchy phrases, or anything that you come across as a very good things which can fetch you more marks. So that kind of the things that you can adopt. So the preparation through the newspaper, magazines, and the internet is an integral part of this paper. And whatever the things that is happening, you should reflect on this. So what is a particular approach is, after understanding the very basic things, what is more required to be done is, that is thinking more and writing more. Okay, reading less, thinking more. Reading less matlab not reading at all, aisa nahi hai. Whatever you have read, generally what happens in rest of the paper, you mug up and you try to reproduce. Here, mugging will not work. Here you need to open your brain. You need to, like, whatever the information that is coming through your reading, you process that information. You think in 10 different aspects. How my friend will look, how the person from the other religion will look, how the person from the Pakistan will look, how the person from the America will look, how the Western society will look. This is how you can understand the different dimensions. Identify the different stakeholders of the issue and try and think about that issue from different stakeholders. Once you understand this, then you try and write those ideas into your paper. So the thinking and writing part is a very, very integral part of this particular paper. More and more brainstorming, more and more reflective understanding, that is what is required. Okay, so this is all what is required to be prepared from this paper. And please do the 4 years paper, both theory part and this, because the same theme was getting repeated every year with minute changes. Once you try and understand the themes of previous year's paper, you will understand that how to move ahead with this. Okay, so this is it from my side. Yes, apart from that, if you have time, then I would advise you go through one of the any biography of a great scholar or thinker or great people, because that will give you a good understanding of peeping into a great personality, how the people are thinking about different situation and the happenings around it. At the same time, reading the other biography also gives you an opportunity to think about your own self, that how I would have thought about it, or I would have done something if I would have been in a particular person's place. Okay, that is to start with, like the Gandhi's biography. Okay, that is my experiment with truth, as a good read. It's a small also. History का revision भी हो जाएगा, and UPSC's favorite, Gandhi is UPSC's favorite also. So that way it will be a more advantageous also. So if you don't have any particular choice, so you can start with that. Otherwise, there is nothing like you have to read this only. Whatever your idol in your life, try and read it out, because good number of questions will be based upon your particular individualistic answers also. What you are going to do in a particular situation, etc. Yes, this is it from my side. If you have any question, please ask. Otherwise, we can. Case studies? Kitne number of case studies you are asking? See, the number of case studies, ultimately number does not count. What counts is your understanding. Once you have understood the whole syllabus, plus you have practiced at least 2 case studies on different themes. There are different themes. Different themes like such as social prejudices, and 1 case study on that like caste discrimination, 1 case study like environment versus development, 1 case study that is a tribal versus the development of the capitalist mode of development, 1 case study about the whistleblower. Whistleblower, you understand that, say for example, you are an bureaucrat and you come across something wrong in the system. You try and complain it to your superior person or a boss, and boss says that do not speak about it because it will tarnish the image of organization. Now you know that this is going to hamper the larger public interest. Your boss is saying to remain silent. Now in this particular situation, as a bureaucrat, what you are going to do? Okay, so these are the kind of the case studies where you need to blow the whistle, jisko bola jata hai. Okay, blow the whistle. Again, there is a step-by-step approach, and in different themes you will understand how to go about it. So once there are 15 to 20 themes are there, so approximately you can double that. That is a 50 number of case studies. But again, the number is not important. If you see the previous year's question paper and plus add on to it 5 to 10 more themes, all the themes will be get covered. The more number of cases, see, the theme is, once you have done 1 theme, अब राम श्याम गीता जॉनसन नाम बदल के करने से कोई मतलब point नहीं है. The same case study will be there, but you have to do the different case studies. That's the thing. Yes, any other question? Yes, any other question? Is that fine? Okay. All the best, and if you have any problem, then you can obviously get connected or ask any point of question at it. Serenic. Okay, thank you so much and all the best.
Okay, my name is Dr. Jayesh Khadda. I'll be taking modern Indian history and culture here at VISION IAS. And I have a bit of cold, so pardon me a bit for my health. But so what we'll be doing is, we'll be taking some roughly 30 minutes or so, and we'll talk about history in general, keeping our focus on our prelims as well as the mains examination. And just like Suraj sir ended with Gandhi, देखिए गांधी से आप नहीं बच सकते हैं, गांधी को अगर आपने पीछे छोड़ दिया तो यूपीएससी आपको छोड़ देगी. So Gandhi is one thinker that is essentially a very important part, whether it's for ethics or for history in general. And I mean, even if you see the past 4 years question papers, even for history point of view, you'll find again and again that something or the other is going to revolve around him in history or in general about other things. So nonetheless, what we'll be doing is, firstly we'll talk about what is, because history is something that comes in paper 1 in the mains examination as well as in the GS examination, right? So we'll talk firstly about, in brief, just 2 minutes, about what should one expect from in history in the prelims examination, what should one expect from history in the mains examination, how are they similar or different to each other while you're looking at history for the prelims or the mains. And after that, we'll also see, let's only through a few questions to look at what is UPSC demanding through both these examinations in history, okay? And at the same point of time, look at some major recurrent themes that you cannot forget or that you cannot, not cover while you're preparing for the examination. So certain high yield areas, I'm not saying high yield questions, I'm saying high yield areas, okay? So the first thing to know is that when we're looking at the prelims examination, we have roughly some 15 to 16 questions from the modern Indian history portion, the art and culture, and the ancient history portion, right? So it's roughly some 15, 16 questions. Now, out of these 15, 16 questions, again, if you'll see, the modern Indian history roughly contributes somewhere around 8 questions, and somewhere around 8 more come from art and culture. If you see in the mains examination, the difference between the syllabus for the prelims and the mains is that here you will see questions from these areas, but in the mains, apart from this, you also have 2 more things, world history and post-independence history. Okay, these are the other things that are there only in the mains examination syllabus. Now, if you see in the mains examination, all papers 250 marks, paper 1 itself is also 250 marks, and this is something that is very characteristic about paper 4 or the ethics portion and about paper 1, that they're relatively static portions. They are not going to change. There is not, they're not going to change in the sense that once you prepared them, they're going to stick with you. You don't need to read separately current affairs for it like you have to do for paper 2 and 3. And that is why in the past 4 years, if you see the average score of paper 1 and 4 also, it's relatively higher, roughly 15 to 20 marks higher than paper 2 and paper 3 because of the dynamic nature of paper 2 and paper 3. Okay, so that's there. So what I'm primarily trying to arrive at here is that when you're starting your preparation now, in 2018, for the 2018 session now, apart from paper 2 and 3, the major thrust initially of your preparation at least must be on paper 1, whether it's geography, whether it's history, because these things are not going to change. And they're going to pay you a dividend for sure. Okay, so that's something that we say that when you start preparing, what you learn in the first year often is how to prepare. Okay, but that is what should not happen. Okay, you should not take a year to realize that, oh, this is what I should have done. An integral aspect of this is to know that your prelims and mains preparation should not happen separately, it should happen integrated manner. So let me take an example from modern Indian history first and put it to you, how can you prepare the same thing in both the fashions. Okay, so for example, there have been recurrent questions on certain aspects. For example, there has been a question twice, I think thrice in the past 6 years on the 1929 session of the Congress and its significance in the prelims examination. What was the 1929 session Congress about? Okay, so that was one thing that is a question in the prelims examination, and then there are 4 options. Okay, that here the call was given for Swaraj, here the call for given for Purna Swaraj, here for the first time fundamental rights were discussed, etc. And then there are options A, B, A, B, C. Okay, now what is to be understood here is that when you see the question itself is saying that the Lahore session of Congress of 1929, which of the following initiatives was taken? What you do not need to remember is, or you do not need to get too sentimental about while you're preparing for history, like we associate history with, is dates and names. Dates and names are not important. Nobody in your examination, in your prelims examination also, is going to ask you questions on names and dates. Out of these 8 questions that appear for modern Indian history, roughly 8 questions, maximum 1 or at times none will come from names. And even the names which are asked are relatively the important ones. Okay. Now, I'm not saying nobody's going to ask you about Gandhi. Okay. But even the names which are asked are relatively of the important ones, not too easy, not too difficult as well. Okay. So the focus of your preparation has not to be on mugging up names and dates. Okay. So this is, for example, the kind of question that they will ask you about. For example, there's been also a question, say, about the Ilbert Bill. What was the Ilbert Bill controversy about? That was the question in 2015. What was the 2014, sorry. What was the Ilbert Bill controversy about? And they're given 4 options. They did not ask you who introduced the Ilbert Bill, which year it was introduced. If you knew what the issue was about, your job was done. There's a question 2015 about the Rowlatt Act. What was the Rowlatt Act about? Nobody is asking you which year it was introduced, who introduced it, who was the Governor General, who repealed it. Okay? So you need to see the pattern here. Okay? That's one thing. But how do they ask a question in mains examination? For example, a similar question can also come in your prelims examination about the Komatagaru incident. Now this was answered, what was this incident about? Now this is roughly around World War I, and when the whole issue was there of the participation of Indians in the World War I itself. Now the prelims question is going to be styled on this, but how is a mains question going to look like? The mains questions which are being asked today in your examination are not focusing on any particular event, like in your prelims examination they are. The mains examination questions are asking you to connect different periods in history. I'm not saying an event, I'm saying periods. So what happened in these 20 years and its significance. So for example, in the mains, the kind of question that comes is that discuss the impact of key international events on Indian freedom struggle. Now this is a question which is not about World War I or World War II or the Russian Revolution alone. See, आप जब स्कूल में होते हैं, when you are in the school, you read, देखिए, I'll talk about the books also, but we all start with the same Bipin Chandra that somebody was reading in 12th, right? What makes your examination different is, if you are in school, somebody is going to ask you, what are the causes of non-cooperation movement? What is the impact of non-cooperation? What are the causes of non-cooperation movement? What is the significance of non-cooperation movement? That is it. Here, what they're going to ask you is, sum up 3 or 4 events together in one question, not even say which events they're talking about specifically. It's up to you. आपको 3 events के बारे में बात करनी है, आप और भी जोड़ सकते हैं इसमें. And it is an open-ended, relatively open-ended question which is not specifying what it's asking, but it is up to you how much you understand the question, that is much you're going to write. What is the reason? Why are they doing this in the questions is that if you see in the mains examination, they have out of these 250 papers, 250 marks, they roughly have, you will find questions of roughly 80 to 90 marks from the whole of history and art and culture together. Okay, and so if that is the case, and each question is roughly around 12.5 marks or so, then you are roughly having some 7 or 8 questions including everything: modern Indian history, world history, post-independence history, art and culture. If everything has to be asked in a mere 8 questions, what the examiner wants to do is that in every question wants to test as much as possible. Okay, so that's the point. So in one question, if I can cover all the international events which have affected the Indian freedom struggle, then that's a better way to ask a question. It checks whether the student knows about all the things, whether he or she can connect, and then write an answer. Okay, for example, in your mains examination, there's a question last year about the impact about or the impact of the Russian Revolution, impact of the Russian Revolution on India's economic planning in post-independence India. Okay, India's economic planning in post-independence history or in post-independence period. Now this is a kind of a question. The Russian Revolution is something that you read in world history, but the question is asking you to compare something that happened in world history with something that happened in post-independence history. So in one question, they're trying to club. Okay. So for example, there's a question this year. Or for example, let me give you another comparison, another simple comparison. Again, something, and these are the kind of questions which they're asking in mains now. To compare and events or limit events, something that has happened in world history to Indian history, post-independence to pre-independence history, these kind of things. For example, the reintegration of, or the integration of princely states in India was done by Patel. At the same point of time, the unification of Germany was carried out by Bismarck. So how do you compare the policies of Bismarck to the policies of Patel? Okay, so this is something that's world history and this is something that's post-independence history. So this link is something that you need to draw. This link is something that you will not get in history books as well, most of the books that you read. But this is where they want to test you and catch you. Okay, so that is there. So these are the kind of things that you need to keep in mind. Now let's come to understanding what are the certain major key areas that you need to focus upon. Now the key areas that you need to focus upon, for firstly the history portion, let's firstly talk about the modern Indian history thing. देखिए, in the modern Indian history thing, the first thing that you need to focus, देखिए एक चीज हुआ है जो modern Indian history में, and this is something that has happened newly in the syllabus which changed since 2013, is that जो 1700 से 1857 का period था, that was not 1700 to 1857 period of modern Indian history was not there before 2013. This has been freshly added in your syllabus. So so this period of 1700 to 1857 is a relatively newer portion. देखिए history के साथ एक ऐसी चीज है कि history में बदलेगा क्या? Nothing's gonna change, right? New history obviously can be written, but nonetheless the events are not going to change, right? So events are not changing, but the kind of questions that they are asking can keep on changing. But in addition to that, what has happened is this is a hot area for your mains examination for the coming few years, because previously there were no questions which are asked from this period. So this is this period of 1700 to 1857, and that is the decline of the Mughals, of Marathas. I'm saying the decline of Mughals. I'm not talking about the Mughal Empire. I'm starting from the decline or from the death of Aurangzeb. Okay, the decline of Mughals or the rise of Marathas or Mysore, etc. And a lot of comparisons which happened between them. For example, Mysore was very different from the other states in what characteristics and what ways it was different. So, or what were the reasons for what were the weaknesses of the Mughal Empire that were overcome by Mysore. So these kind of comparisons are important from your mains examination point of view. Okay, that's something. Now, then you come to the period from 1857 onwards. This is the period that is important in both prelims and mains. This period is more so from the mains point of view only. But the 1857 period onwards is up to 1947 is from the mains, pre as well as mains point of view. When here you see, देखिए, इसमें broadly let me just divide it into 3 or 4 categories of things that you see. When I talk about previous year paper, देख mentality मैंने देखिए आजकल बच्चों में नया फैशन है that पिछले 15 साल के क्वेश्चन कर लेने हैं, 10 के कर लेने हैं, इसमें से सब हो जाएगा. देखिए, there is no need also of doing it. When I am saying previous year's questions, I am saying only the past 4 years questions, prelims as well as mains. Because the pattern and the style of asking question keeps on changing. If you see the last 10 years question paper, you will find in the, say, 6 years ago or 7 years ago, there were more questions which are of a factual nature. ये book किसने लिखी? कौन इसमें से quit India movement में involved था? Who was not involved in the non-cooperation movement? These kind of questions are not being asked today. So don't, waste on your time on remembering 300 names in modern Indian history. It's a useless exercise. So let's broadly, if you see, the categories, the first important, and this is what I'm doing is I'm categorizing topics. I'm not telling you in lineage. The first important thing is these government or British government amendments or bills that they brought about right from 1861, 1892, 1909, 1919, 1935. All of them are very important. Okay, I'm not getting into the details, but obviously all of them are very important. It is not important again to know who brought them, but what was introduced for the first time in 1892, what was introduced for the first time in 1909, what was introduced for the first time in 1919, what was introduced for the first time in 1935. This is what you need to know for the prelims examination. They will give you a question that with reference to the 1919 Act, which of the following statements are correct or incorrect? A, B, C, A, B, C. So you need to know the characteristics of them. Again, in these characteristics, you don't need to remember कि इतनी seats थी parliament में, इतनी से बढ़ा के इतनी कर दी. Okay, the number is not important to remember. The characteristics are. Okay, the next important thing apart from these are Congress sessions. Again, when you talk about the key Congress sessions, I am just saying, so from 1905, 1906, 1907, then 1917, then 1928, 1929, 1931. That's more than enough. This much is to know. Okay. All these Congress sessions, what happened in these sessions? Okay. What was, so here was given the call for Swaraj, then Purna Swaraj, all these things about each of these sessions, the important characteristics you need to know. It's not very important to remember who chaired which of the sessions and all these things, but wo aapko automatically when you know the story, you will get to know. Okay, but you don't need to get too touchy about it as well. The third important category of things that you need to know is, and this is important primarily from the mains point of view, and that is certain key issues. Okay, so for example, and here for example, and this is our main freedom fighters in terms of their political viewpoints. Okay, so Ambedkar, Gandhi, Bose, Nehru, at least this much. I would add Tagore also. You can use Tagore in ethics also. Okay, so that's why I would ask you to, for example, and they're asking question in the mains examination. The past 2 years, they've asked 2 questions on comparing one of the political freedom fighters with other in terms of their ideas and interests. Last year there was a question comparing Gandhi and Ambedkar. This year there was a question comparing Nehru. This year there was a question comparing Bose and Gandhi. There can be another question in the future which asks you to compare Tagore and Gandhi, because there were differences as well as similarities between them. Okay, so these kind of comparisons are important from mains point of view, और ये सारी knowledge आप ethics के पेपर में भी use कर सकते हैं. तो ये एक aspect है that is both for the mains in GS1 as well as for the ethics paper as well as for the essay paper. अब कोई भी ऐसे लिखेंगे तो यूपीएससी का ऐसे की कैरेक्टरिस्टिक ये होती है कि गांधी होता है उसमें कहीं ना कहीं, वेदर इट्स ऑन वुमेन, टेक्नोलॉजी, लोकल गवर्नेंस, स्वराज, कुछ भी हो. So okay, so ultimately he has to be there. Now, so that is another one area which is important. Now, apart from this, what is also important from the prelims point of view is the government committees which came from 1940 to 1946. Okay, और ये committees कौन सी थी? From the time of the August offer onwards. From August offer, Cripps mission, Wavell plan, cabinet mission plan, Mountbatten plan, all of them characteristics. This is आप अगर ये कर लेंगे, but ऐसे आपको पढ़ना नहीं है. See, the aim of UPSC preparation is never to know, your aim frankly to come to this class or talking to anybody when you're talking is never to ask which books to read. That's a foolish question to ask. That's a question that you don't understand what UPSC is demanding. You should be asking, what is the topic I should be focusing on more? Okay, so these are another thread which is important from the prelims point of view. Apart from this, there is another one section, and that is important from the mains point of view, apart from this, and that is of certain key events. World War I and its significance to the Indian freedom struggle. This is something that is important. World War II, they can be asked together as well, right? Because of the kind of question I gave you in the start, right? So, but you should be talking about their significance. The Russian Revolution is extremely important. Then also, let me tell you that certain fringe areas are very important. I call them fringe areas because they're not given in most of the books that you read. Okay, most of the books, meaning Bipin Chandra's, it's not given. Okay, but UPSC asks them again and again because it knows कि आप ये सब तो पढ़ेंगे, लेकिन वो नहीं पढ़ेंगे. For example, and in the past 5 years, UPSC has asked thrice questions on the role of, including this year, on the role of women, and there's not one question that is formed on women, there are 3 or 4 questions. The role of women organizations to the freedom struggle, the role of women in the non-violent freedom struggle, the role of women in the violent freedom struggle. ये सारे अलग-अलग questions हैं. Okay, so these are the 3 or 4 different questions which have already been asked and it will be asked again. क्योंकि normally when you're reading world Indian history, आप गांधी, अंबेडकर, यही चलता ना, इधर औरतों को कौन पूछ रहा है वैसे भी. So in that context, you will find that this is a relatively neglected portion in your preparation, and that is why UPSC hits, and that is why if you see UPSC के syllabus में, the first thing that is written, if you go to the syllabus, that the UPSC wishes to promote employment of more women. UPSC की preparation 2 चीजों के बिना नहीं हो सकती है. One is Gandhi, other is women issues. If you don't know women issues, you will not crack the exam. Okay, so women issues and in the freedom struggle also is very essential. Okay, that's one fringe area. The role of backward class or the role of backward castes in the freedom struggle, ये भी बहुत important है. There's a question in a prelims examination where they ask that which of the following organization Ambedkar did not form? Again, because the caste issue is very important in the freedom struggle. One, women. The second is backward castes. The third is on the role of industries. This is a question which has not been asked in the mains examination. Very high value area. The role of industrial class in the freedom struggle. Okay, or the role of labor unions and industrial class in the freedom struggle. Industrial class, I mean the capitalist class as well. Okay, Bipin Chandra has also written a chapter on it. Okay, there is a chapter in the thick Bipin Chandra, the blue Bipin Chandra, there is a chapter on it, but obviously you don't have the time to go ahead and read it. But it's another one topic जो आपको अलग से मेंस के लिए पढ़ना चाहिए. Okay, so this industrial class in the freedom struggle, these 3 are relatively fringe areas which are important. और एक last चीज जो है बस modern Indian history में, that is important, and that is the role of social reformers. ये जो topic है ये prelims के लिए important है. 19th century India के social reformers वाले एक chapter है, that's also pretty important from the prelims examination point of view. This is it for modern Indian history. Okay, or given the time, that limited time that we also have. Okay, next thing, let me just talk to you in brief about art and culture. Okay, now when we talk about art and culture, the problem with art and culture is that it is relatively more difficult to do. Okay, one of the reasons is people find it boring. The other reason is that the kind of questions which have been asked in the past 4 years on art and culture in the mains examination are not that easy. So what is your aim of preparing when you're doing art and culture is going to be to focus upon certain key areas and ensure कि अगर question उसमें से आता है, then you should be able to write a answer. There may be 1 or 2 questions which in spite of your preparation are coming from a zone that does not merit giving that much effort. See, the problem with UPSC is that there is too much ground to cover in relatively smaller time. It's important in UPSC to know what not to read rather than what to read. It's even more important to know what not to read. So don't get gung-ho on one question कि मैंने इतना पढ़ा and I couldn't answer. And when you see in the past, I don't know anything about this question. There's no need to get sentimental about it. There's a reason why the topper also does not score 50% marks. Right? So, एक question पे focus मत करिए, लेकिन ensure that the strong basics are, or the major areas are covered in your preparation. So, what are these major areas in art and culture? And the sources of them also, we'll talk about that as well. So, the first thing about art and culture is that you divide your preparation into certain areas. So, whether it is paintings, whether it is temple architecture, whether it is painting, temple architecture, or whether it is classical dance forms, or Jainism and Buddhism. Okay, at least I'm saying for a start, okay, for a start, these are 5 areas that should be rock solid. You cannot go to your prelims examination or your mains examination without doing at least this much. There are other themes as well, but at least this much is important. The book to refer to, them people talk about many books, right? The 11th class NCERT is a good starting point. Okay, it's good also because it's given in an interesting manner. उसमें photographs भी हैं, सब कुछ है. It's something there. Also, and it's a very useful. If you can, and if you are not doing that page, that book you have to do from cover to cover, page to page. Okay, that's one thing. The next thing is, apart from that, you refer the class notes, and also, देखिए, over and above this, there are many other books, right? CCRT is there. Tamil Nadu State Culture textbook is there. देखिए, whatever has to be done, I would say this much is enough. Some people also talk about which is that book, Nitin Singhania. See, I have no problems if you can and want to do that as well. The problem is it's thick, and if it's thick, it's useless. From where I think, it's useless because you're not going to read it. You don't know what areas to focus in on. And you cannot revise it. And in UPSC preparation, if you're reading something once, don't read it. If you're reading something twice, you have to be lucky to remember it, unless and until you're reading something thrice from the same source. You are doing a blunder if you're reading once and going in the exam. एक बार पढ़ के जाने में कुछ नहीं याद आएगा, prelims में फिर भी आ जाए, means में बिल्कुल नहीं आएगा. Okay, so don't focus upon reading the same thing from 3 or 4 sources. Read from one source, and maybe add on a few things to the same source and revise from that source again and again. That goes for the whole of UPSC preparation and also for art and culture here as well. So I would say this much is enough. इसके ऊपर if you want to add on a few things किसी एक aspect के बारे में कहीं और से, you can definitely do that. Okay, so that is there. Now इसमें paintings में there are number of different styles of paintings and the comparisons between them, which is important. The comparison वाला aspect, यहाँ पे भी आपके जो आगे questions बनेंगे, they will be of the comparative style only. Comparing the Tanjore style with the Mysore style, comparing the Nagara style with the Dravida style of temple architecture, comparing one form of dance form to another form of dance form, or the certain common characteristics of classical Indian dance forms. So they want to cover spectrum in one question. That's the challenge. Or Jainism and Buddhism repeatedly is asked in your prelims examination upon the of the ideal, or the characteristics and ideas of Jainism and Buddhism, or a comparative question here. This is also something that's been asked before. For example, as to why is it that Buddhism flourished and Jainism did not flourish that much in terms of reach to the people. So this again comparative aspect. So all of this, आप जब पढ़ेंगे तो keep those comparisons in mind. Look at the past 4 years question papers. Okay, that's there. Let's briefly talk in 2 minutes about world history as well. Okay, now when you're talking about world history, देखिए world history, आप एक चीज और समझ लीजिए, आपके पढ़ने में जब मेंस में जो एरियाज इंपॉर्टेंट है, the most important area out of modern Indian history, world history and post independence history is modern Indian history. Second important is world history. Third important is post-independence history. इसमें मेरा कोई bias नहीं है, ideological. Why I'm saying so is, if you see the past 4 years questions, you will find कि every year there is question from from modern Indian history. But at times there is either one question from world history or no question. Or there are, for 2 years there were questions from post-independence history, then there were no questions for post-independence history. Next year you may again see. So the pattern is very clear to the extent that modern Indian history पे आपका सबसे ज़्यादा focus होना चाहिए, relatively lesser. You don't need to go to that much depth in world history, and post-independence history is small. Itself is small and the number of events are very limited. So it's easier to do post-independence history as well. Okay, so that way, when you look at world history, you don't need to go into this much depth that you go into modern Indian history. But world history, you start from the French Revolution and the Industrial Revolution to the Cold War period. Okay, and when you look at this again, you can divide it into areas from the French Revolution and events related to the French Revolution, unification of Germany and Italy, and unification of Germany and Italy, Industrial Revolution. Now again, questions are being asked again of the comparative nature here. Why is it that Industrial Revolution happened happened first in Britain? And would it be correct to say that the Industrial Revolution is actually a revolution? Okay, so they want you to analyze, not know कि power loom किसने बनाया, ये किसने बनाया, वो किसने बनाया. Nobody is asking about specific inventions. Okay, and so that is there. Then you come to the period from 1900s onwards, and here you talk about the Russian Revolution is important, its significance, its characteristics, then World War I, the causes, consequence, Treaty of Versailles, the significance of Treaty of Versailles. This is something that is important. Then you talk about the Great Depression of 1929, the significance of Great Depression of 1929, how did it affect the architecture of post World War II, economic planning in the world. So ये सारी चीजें हैं. Then if you come to the period up to World War II, here you talk about the causes of World War II itself. अब इसमें क्या होता है, बच्चे जब पढ़ते हैं तो बच्चे वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 पे पढ़ के छोड़ देते हैं कि वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 तक हो गया तो प्रिपेयर हो गया मॉडर्न वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री. नो, इनफैक्ट दे आर आस्किंग मोर क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम कोल्ड वॉर पीरियड. ओके, I'll tell you about the books here also, but in a minute. In the Cold War period, देखिए, there are specific events. The Vietnam War, इस पे question अभी नहीं आया है. Korean War, इस पे question अभी नहीं आया है. Suez Canal Crisis, इस पे question आ गया है एक बार, फिर से भी आ सकता है, लेकिन obviously there's been a question once in 2014 on the Suez Canal Crisis 1956. Then also the Cuban Missile Crisis is important. And the collapse of the Soviet Union. The reasons for collapse of the Soviet Union, the significance of the collapse, impact on Indian foreign policy, दोनों को relate करके भी question आ सकता है. Okay, that the reasons for the collapse of Soviet Union and how did it affect Indian foreign policy. तो ये पेपर 1 को भी लिंक कर दिया उसने, पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस हिस्ट्री को भी लिंक कर दिया, वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री को भी लिंक कर दिया, और आपके IR को भी लिंक करके एक ही क्वेश्चन में डाल दिया. Okay, so that is the kind of thing also that is important. Now, apart from this, just one more thing in the Cold War era that you need to know is about the United Nations and the formation of United Nations, which happened in the backdrop of World War II. Why was the United Nations formed? What was the strength, the weakness of the United Nations? To what extent the United Nations is relevant today? How can it be reformed? ये paper 2 में भी आ सकता है, ये paper 1 में भी आ सकता है. Okay, so all of this is something that is important from world history. Coming to the books for world history, देखिए, the books for world history, Arjun Dev, old NCERT, or Arjun Dev is the author, old NCERT was written by him, or Orient Black Swan has published the same old NCERT by Arjun Dev's title, which is because the old NCERT is no longer be published, right? So it's being published by Orient Black Swan as well. Arjun Dev, World History. Orient Black Swan Publications. इसके ऊपर आपको जो भी पढ़ना है, you stick to the notes. There is normal law, world history, which I do not subscribe to people unless and until you're a history optional student. वो इतनी मोटी बुक है और कोई उसमें जिस डेप्थ में दिया है, it's not needed for your exam. Okay, so whatever specific things you want to add on, you can rely upon the class note or something for them, but Arjun Dev should suffice. Okay, that's there for this. इसके ऊपर whatever I'm saying is essential. Over and above that is your श्रद्धा, और श्रद्धा की हमारे देश में कमी नहीं है, तो आप उसको कहीं तक भी लेके जा सकते हैं, but this is something that is essential. Now, just one thing about modern Indian history, the books. Bipin Chandra today is available in various shapes and sizes. So, but I'm talking of Bipin Chandra only in the context of you can rely upon, just a second, yeah. So when you're talking about the modern Indian history books, Bipin Chandra, NCERT, I would say Bipin Chandra's books are available in 3 forms broadly. But I would say you stick to the NCERT. The NCERT will not help you write in a single question. You can now not write any single question with NCERT. Okay, but it gives you a good story. But stories are not effective when you have to write the kind of answers that they're demanding. But it will give you a good background. Okay, if you do, you're not aware or familiar with the background. That's it. I'm not telling you to read the thick Bipin Chandras because it's actually more difficult to revise them. You will not be able to do it. I would strongly rely and would want you to do something that involves the use. Just a second. I'll just take 1 more minute and I'll finish because I wanted to show you just one thing. And Okay, so that's one thing about the NCERT that you need to know. The next thing about is Spectrum. Spectrum Modern Indian History, the Spectrum publication की Modern Indian History, the small book that is available, is useful. The Spectrum is actually only a summary of Bipin Chandra, nothing else. Okay, so that is something जो आप अगर इसको भी अकेले पढ़ लेंगे, that's also good enough. But if you want a brief story, because here things are given relatively in a more concise fashion, then the NCERT is enough. इसके अलावा what you need to be doing is to use the class notes effectively and probably make your own notes. Now आपसे बहुत सारे लोगों ने इस बारे में बात कर ली होगी that you should be, making your own notes. आप अपना पढ़िए, अपना ये करिए, अपना वो करिए. That we often find it very difficult to actually implement that in practice. Okay. I got that. My fault, not his. So, okay, but we often find it very relatively difficult to implement it in practice. But what I want you to be doing, and why I'm saying class notes are relatively important, is primarily because it knits the whole thing in a fashion that you can write in an exam. In exam, you have 8 minutes, 250 words to write, 112.5 marker, unless and until you're identifying some 100 topics, say 50-60 for modern Indian history, 50-60 for geography, and make your own small summary. One day before the examination, you will not be able to revise. And one day before the examination or 4 days before the examination, if you're not able to revise everything, आपने पहले कितनी मेहनत करी हो, it is not, उसका उतना effect नहीं आएगा जितना आ सकता था. So your preparation should be aimed at making your own notes. Relatively, basically only concising what you already know in a fashion that you can revise quickly. And people who prepare, who are into the second and third attempts, they realize over experience with time writing 1 or 2 mains कि पहला mains जब लिख के आते हैं तो paper 1 जब आप लिख के आए तो जिस दिन paper 1 होता है उस दिन paper 1 and 2 हुआ तो आप paper 1 and 2 लिख के आए, 6 hours you've written. Now you can barely stand, barely think. Now you want to sleep. The next day you have paper 3 and 4, or maybe you have a 1 day gap and you have paper 3 and 4. In 1 day to revise 2 papers for UPSC is a mammoth task already when you've written 6 hours 1 day before, and next day you're going to write 6 hours. And that is the day where these things come in handy. So आप जो भी second या third attempt दे रहा है उससे बात करके देखिएगा who is a serious candidate. You will find that they've already identified certain important topics in paper 1 to 4. उनकी अपनी एक section wise हर paper की एक file होती है, उसमें वो उस topics को improve करते रहते हैं if there's something new that is coming up, and that is the files that they revise later. Nobody revises. Nobody who's serious about UPSC preparation sits back and tomorrow revise Lakshmi Kant from cover to cover, or Uma Kapila or XYZ books from cover to cover. They just know what is important. तो बच्चे क्या करते हैं, अगर उमा कपिला में से भी कुछ important लगता है तो उसमें पेजेस फाड़ लिए और अपनी फाइल में लगा लिए, ये पढ़ना है, बाकी उमा कपिला साइड में क्या करना है. There's no sentimental attachment to the book. Okay, if you have, I don't know, but I don't have one. So, I mean, you should be knowing what to take out of a book and use it in a fashion. Okay, so make summaries something that you can actually reproduce in the examination. So if I am to talk about the decline of Mughals, मैं पूरा chapter पढ़ लिया decline of Mughals का और कहानी बहुत अच्छी थी, मैं समझ गया, but what is the point? If I don't have 5 points to write about, it's useless. If I have these 5 points and I don't understand anything else, that's also okay. Okay, but you should be able to concretize your knowledge in a manner that is reproducible. If it is not reproducible, you will become a historian, which is not something that you want to become. If it is reproducible, you will become a civil servant. That is what you want to become. Right? So do that much, and I think that must be sufficient enough. Okay, any doubts that you have? Post independence history के लिए NCERT जो है वो पढ़िए, उसके अलावा उसको जो कॉम्प्लीमेंट करना है उसको सिर्फ क्लास नोट से करिए, क्योंकि आप पूरी बिपिन चंद्रा जो पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस पीरियड की है या रामचंद्र गुहा की जो बुक है वो पढ़ेंगे तो इट्स यूजलेस. एनसीईआरटी है, इंडिया स्ट्रगल आफ्टर इंडिया, there's a NCERT, India struggle after or India in post independence period. That is a good enough NCERT. एक और NCERT है contemporary world politics NCERT. These are political science NCERTs of 11th and 12th class. Okay, one is post independence history पे, NCERT, other is contemporary world politics. वो contemporary world politics की political science की जो NCERT है, that talks about India in the Cold War era, that talks about world history in Cold War era and post Cold War era. Okay, अर्जुन देव जो थी world history की, that does not talk about Cold War era. Okay, that's the thing. तो Cold War era भी उसमें कंटेम्प्रेरी वर्ल्ड पॉलिटिक्स एनसीईआरटी जो है उसमें कवर हो जाएगा. पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस हिस्ट्री की भी एनसीईआरटी है, दैट्स इनफ. इसके अलावा आप कोई पूरी बुक्स पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है. अरे अब रामचंद्र बुआ की पूरी बुक में भूदान आंदोलन नहीं था, लेकिन वो उसमें था आपकी बिपिन चंद्रा में था. इट वाज देयर इन द बिपिन चंद्रा, इट वाज देयर इन द एनसीईआरटी एज वेल. So stick to the NCERT. Ramchandra Guha has not written a book for UPSC aspirants. Is a historian apart, which has written a book from a very different perspective. तो वो book भी ऐसी लिखेगी आपको लगेगा आप कहानी पढ़ रहे हैं, पिक्चर देख रहे हैं, which is no use for a UPSC aspirant. Okay, you want to read it separately, it's your choice, but not for UPSC. Post independence history के लिए आप NCERT को stick करिए और class notes को उससे complement कर लीजिए. That's enough. Okay. Any other doubts? Any other thing that you would want to ask? India's struggle for independence is Bipin Chandra only. Yeah, I'm saying that if you want to read Bipin Chandra, you just stick to the NCERT, because that is relatively more bigger to read and revise also. So that is not my. If you have already done it, it's another matter. Okay, and there are other books also like Plassi to Partition by Shekhar Bandyopadhyay. Unless and until you are a history optional student, you don't need to focus upon it. And what are important areas from Shekhar Bandyopadhyay, we would cover that in the class, because those are the fringe areas जो Shekhar Bandyopadhyay के अलावा किसी और बुक में नहीं दिए हैं. Okay, yeah.
These are old NCERT.
अर्जुन देव, बिपिन चंद्रा, ओल्ड एनसीईआरटी, न्यू एनसीईआरटी, कुछ भी ले लीजिए जो मार्केट में अवेलेबल है, दैट्स इनफ. बिपिन चंद्रा होनी चाहिए. हाँ, तो आप नहीं ले लीजिए, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. न्यू इज फाइन ऑल्सो. न्यू ओल्ड वट एवर इज, इट्स ओके, बिकॉज माई अंडरस्टैंडिंग इज दैट बिपिन चंद्रा इज नॉट, द एनसीईआरटीज आर नॉट गोना हेल्प यू राइट द आंसर्स. इट्स जस्ट फॉर योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग. ओके, दैट्स देयर. जी, अमेरिकन रेवोल्यूशन रिलेटिवली इज नॉट दैट इंपॉर्टेंट. कंपैरेटिव एस्पेक्ट में फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन से आ जाता है कि व्हाट्स द फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन एक्चुअली अ रेवोल्यूशन और वाज द अमेरिकन रेवोल्यूशन एक्चुअली अ रेवोल्यूशन, टू व्हाट एक्सटेंट द फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन वाज इंस्पायर्ड बाय द अमेरिकन रेवोल्यूशन. तो वो एक रिलेटिवली एस्पेक्ट है जो कंपैरिजन में आ जाता है. ओके, एनीथिंग एल्स? हाँ, देखिए, what he's asking about is just one particular question which came in the mains examination. Discuss the contribution of foreigners to the Indian freedom struggle. So what he's saying is that we often come across such, if we come across such questions जो हम अलग से नहीं पढ़ते कि foreigners का contribution Indian freedom struggle में, and we can think about Annie Besant as just one prime example कि अब उसके अलावा और क्या लिखें. Right? So you can start in a chronological fashion, and we say in history that these are kind of questions in which you start from a chronological fashion. Annie Besant seems to be the most prominent, but not the only one. For example, if you start from the foundation of Congress itself, AOU. देखिए, what I'm basically trying to say is सिर्फ एक क्वेश्चन पे फोकस मत करिए. I'm saying कि there can be still questions of some variety which would want you to interlink information from very different periods of the freedom struggle itself. What you should be doing is use your existing knowledge in a fashion that links them together. Okay, AOUM also, if you actually would know, AOUM retired from the Indian civil service in 1870s. He came back to India, he stayed in India for 25 years, and he was again till 1892 when he went back to London. And he's a famous ornithologist of India before Salim Ali, who was the ornithologist in post-independent India, bird watching ornithology. Salim Ali के पहले जो इंडिया का सबसे बड़ा ornithologist था, वो AOUM ही था, और उसका पैशन इंडियन वाइल्ड लाइफ को लेके was too huge, and he also was very closely associated with not just the Congress and the formation of, but also with Alan Octavian, with the Theosophical Society started by Blavatsky and Alcott. So he was also part of the Theosophical Society. So Theosophical Society was also there. So and Annie Besant herself was a part of this. और भी ऐसी चीजें हैं. और my point is कि ऐसा हो सकता है कि मेरे को ज़्यादा पता है, हो सकता है आपको अभी नहीं पता है, or whatever maybe things. So there may be certain areas, you know, where your knowledge at times may be lacking. At times, yes, there are questions which are difficult to, and I would say this is a question which is very stupid. क्योंकि हम तो
क्या क्या पढ़ रहे हैं और ये कहाँ से लेके वो फॉरेनर्स के साथ रोल पे पहुंच गए. They can be times of questions which are relatively fringe. You may find it difficult to answer, but what you find difficult to answer, if you know everything and still you find it difficult to answer, then believe it that everybody else is also going to find it difficult to answer. So that's why I'm saying कि मैंने पहले बोला था ना कि एक दो questions ऐसे हो सकते हैं पूरे पेपर में. Out of 5 years, if you see, there can be one question that you had no clue about and you still have no clue about. Don't get too fixated on them as well. But at the same point of time, never give in to questions. जितना आता है उसको घुमा के लिख देना है. Okay? So that's there. Anything else? Okay, thank you for your patience. Best of luck.